Winter is coming.
Star-Lord.
Finish him. Hadouken! Fatality.
And welcome to the official start of Season 2 of Free Your Geek. I'm no longer going to be calling it the Free Your Geek podcast because we're no longer a podcast, but those for you that are listening on audio only, hopefully you like what you hear and we're entering your earbuds right now. And for those that are watching on Facebook Live, welcome to our people as they keep joining. So we're going to be building that audience. Let's get right into it. First of all, I am your host, Jay Free. With me to my left are my two illustrious co-hosts. We have KB.
My triumphant return.
KB has been gone for the last couple episodes. Now
it's going to be a dazzling show.
You're going to start with that already? I'm going to kick you off the show as it's going to happen. And I
was about to say you have dazzling good looks.
You're lying, but thank you.
He has some dazzling features. I got to agree with you.
Well, I appreciate it. And then we have the Don.
How you doing?
Hey, what's up, buddy?
Hey.
So we had a month off, and now we're back. We're going to be talking a couple different things today. We have 4 things on the docket, and we have a very special guest that's about to be coming in. She's on her way now, and she's going to be talking about, we're going to be reviewing probably the biggest portion of our show, Game of Thrones Season 7. We're going to recap that for you. And we know it's a little bit late, but we've been kind of enjoying it.
It's our own fault. We're on hiatus.
We wanted to settle, but we'll also, KB, we're going to start off with some Inhumans talk because KB went and saw it in IMAX, I believe, correct? Yep. Then we're going to turn the tail a little bit to more of the horror genre, and we're going to be talking, we all saw It together. So Don's, I think, is going to lead the charge with that, but we're all going to be talking about It. And we also had a Netflix series, and I was about to wear my Danny Rand shirt, but I switched it for the Tyrion shirt. But we're going to be talking about The Defenders as well, which was on Netflix. So we have a lot to talk about. If this was a comic book, this would be a super-sized annual issue, if you will.
Giant size for your geek.
Oh, exactly. Giant size for your geek. So for all those that are joining and commenting on the video right now, welcome. Chris Knight Rider is already on and saying, hey, what's up? So, what's up, buddy? And I think our special guest just joined. So, Don, do you want to go? Just make sure you don't get locked out because then one of us I'll have to go. There you go. We're on the second floor, Don.
Yeah, he asked me that when we came up.
So let's start since Don didn't see it. And to my knowledge, he doesn't watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but let's start right with Inhumans. Let's just hit the ground running and go. But actually, you know what? Before that, while our guest is coming up, I want to give a quick shout-out to our sponsors, those who are watching on Facebook Live. You'll see their logos switching. But we have, of course, our friends at Pachico's Furniture. Again, moving services, you'll see their number. We have Local Blast Marketing. For all your marketing needs, advertising needs, check out Local Blast. And friend of the show, Tara J., has her own booty yoga studio called the Ritual Sweat Society. I'm going to be reaching out to her shortly. I kind of want to see if she wants to come in for an interview at some point. But check her out as well. If you're looking to get in shape, obviously I'm not, but check out Ritual Sweat Society. It's a local here. I believe it's in Dartmouth or Westport. I can never remember which town line it is. But for those local to the Fall River, Providence, Swansea, Dartmouth area, go check out her studio.
She's South awesome. Coast area.
Yeah, the South Coast area. Thank you, KB. Thanks for jumping in there. So those are our sponsors. But KB, let's talk real quick Inhumans.
So Inhumans hit the IMAX theater a couple weeks back.
Right.
I thought it was really good. Critics have given it a lot of crap.
They're panning it.
They're panning it. I feel like one of the biggest problems was that it's very misunderstood for the format that it's in. So basically, I think there's a lot of confusion with the fact of like we're taking the first 2 episodes of an 8-episode TV series and just throwing it in IMAX. So you're putting something on the screen with on the giant, beautiful, gorgeous IMAX screen, because seeing like the Thor previews and stuff was like amazing.
Right.
But you're taking some of the TV budget and putting it on an IMAX screen.
I can understand.
So that's one of the first things. It's very confusing. And so if you're somebody who's going into that movie with a friend or something and you don't even know what it is, it's confusing. Also, it's not going to have an ending because it's the first 2 episodes of a TV show.
So people were expecting it to be more movie-like?
Yes. So
rather than the setup to
so
start.
what they did was they took 2 episodes and they put it into a movie format, and then it kind of just ends where, episode 3, when this thing comes out, will start. So that's a little, a little tricky for people to get their heads around. But if you know the Inhumans, a lot of people aren't familiar because it's not as popular as the X-Men. The X-Men have tons and tons of characters, tons of books. Inhumans, not so much. But the characters kind of fit their personalities pretty well. The special effects, like I said, were done for TV. So I went in knowing, I got what I expected out of it. And I think a lot of people just don't. So that's the thing. It passed the wife sleep test. My wife falls asleep every single movie we go to almost. And she stayed awake for the whole thing and was like, oh, I can't wait to see this. Character's really good. Black Bolt, the king who can't speak. When he opens his mouth, he can destroy basically everything in his path. You have Medusa with the hair that's practically alive.
Right.
We had a really cool scene with Karnak. Karnak can actually predict possible outcomes of situations when he's presented with them.
Okay.
So he can there's a scene where Karnak, you see it and he gets killed, but that's him thinking it in his mind, like, oh, I did this wrong, I did this wrong, I did this wrong, and it has.
So it's kind of like the movie Next with what is it? Oh my God, what's the actor's name? Nicolas Cage. Thank you, Don.
Yep.
Okay, Don's back.
Yeah,
but let's let Don jump back in. But first, I want to introduce our very special guest. I call her my Khaleesi. She is one of, I don't want to say oldest friends because that's a misnomer. She's one of my longest tenured friends, which I've known her for over 15 years.
She's got tenure, so she's like
got
a
tenure.
friend for life.
She can't get fired. She can't get fired from my friendship. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome another nickname we're going to call her. I'm going to call her Elf, perhaps. But my friend Erin, we're going to call her E. Please welcome her to the show. Please come on in.
Welcome.
Yeah, you can sit right in the middle.
Your seat?
No, it's not. It's not your seat. It's your seat now.
Oh, okay.
We're gonna just make sure everybody looks good.
These are my notes because
Yeah, Erin's brought in tons of notes. Erin and I, like I said, have known each other for years now. Crazy amount of time.
Are you gonna give them the backstory on
Oh,
that too?
we'll talk about that when we get into it. Into
Okay.
it. But KB, so I just to kind of wrap up this Inhumans thing. How does it compare to another Marvel show that's out there, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Is it in the same vein? The humor's the same?
Yes, the humor's more.
Okay.
Like it had the charm of a Marvel movie. So it had those humorous parts that we see throughout Marvel movies, little jokes, little things like that.
Winks to the audience.
Exactly. So it had a lot of stuff like that. Yeah, the acting's a little, but they did like I said, they did this on. It was supposed to be a movie, and I think a lot of people kind of ticked because they were expecting like an awesome movie.
It's essentially a pilot that they put in the theater to generate interest for the show.
Basically. And it's only going to be an 8-episode show, so series. So it'll probably be a one and done,
kind of like a
thing.
Peggy Carter.
Yeah, exactly,
Okay.
exactly. So, just my point would be this: if you didn't want to see an IMAX, great, but give it a chance on the little screen and see if you like it.
Oh, we got it. Facebook Live right now. We got all kinds of emojis coming through. We got hearts. We got flowers. We got mad faces, crying
It's dazzling.
faces. It is dazzling. I'm gonna punch you.
So
in a
before
second.
we move on from Marvel stuff, we know how dazzling Jeff is.
Yeah. Okay. First of all, what up, John Viveris?
Oh,
here we go. You guys set something up, didn't you?
Jay is always buying us stuff. So I was like, something, and he pays for lots of meals and stuff when we go out. He's just a good guy.
Okay.
So I always feel bad that, his longtime crush, he doesn't have any pictures of his longtime crush.
Oh, you're gonna get punched on this episode.
So
It's gonna be
basically,
great.
this is for you, Jay Free. This is for you.
Okay, that.
It's pretty intense.
This is a nice little dazzler photo that my daughter Faith drew for him.
Faith, by the way, you can go back to one of our older episodes. Don't Tune Out, where we talk about cartoons. That's audio only,
So-
but check that out on For Your Geek
So
on
she took
any audio
she
device.
did this in about 10 minutes, believe it or
Wow.
not.
She's fantastic. She's a great artist.
And,
So you know what? No, I'm not
So
going to.
this is for you.
I know you're going to try to
Jeffrey.
embarrass
This
me,
is for you.
but check out this artwork. Faith,
Yeah.
Faith, if you're watching this or you're listening to the audio, thank you very, very much. I do appreciate
You
it.
can put it on his desk.
I'm actually going to frame this. I'm not going to put it on my desk because I'll get weird looks. But I am going to frame
You
this.
could have
It's gonna-
signed it, Love Dazzler.
Yeah, no, she did sign it.
signs all of her
That's
artwork,
awesome.
yeah.
That's fantastic. I am very impressed. It's very well done, and thank you very much, Faith.
And you might want to check out our page for a very special post dedicated to Jeffrey.
Did you? Okay, so Facebook.com for your geek podcast.
Yep.
Okay, all right. That's
and please
interesting.
feel free to comment on
Yeah,
the
feel.
posting.
Hey, you know what?
Share away too.
Share away.
Oh man, I don't know what's going on. I feel something.
We just wanted to show Jeff our appreciation.
Next week on For Your Geek, I bring in 2 new co-hosts. Okay, so
Dum, 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 dum,
let's.
dum,
Yeah,
dum,
do we
dum,
want to go
dum.
on right into Game of Thrones? Or do we
Jeffrey,
want to go?
stop staring at her chest.
Sorry. We're talking about the picture, right?
Should I
Yes.
leave?
Oh.
All right. No. E. All right. Welcome. Let's talk to our guest. Let's be a gentleman. That we have a lady present.
Oh, come on. I'm like one of the guys anyway.
True. Well, that's basically the perfect way to describe you. Like I've known you since you were about 17 years old. We worked at Shaw's supermarkets together, and we've been friends for years. Now we work for the same company as well. I'm not going to mention that, but we have some people from that company watching as well because I know you're bringing more viewers in. So thank you for those clicking and watching. I love it. Paul Tavares is on Facebook Live. Says, "Sup, fellas and lovely lady." Thank you, Paul. You're the man. Paul's a big fan of ours. He's constant. Do we want to give a quick? Because I think Game of Thrones is going to probably take up the majority of our time.
All right.
Do we want to talk that? Do we have anywhere to go? I want to make sure our guest first and foremost time wise. I know we're going to go
we're
into it.
good. We're
so maybe
good,
if we
so-
just do like maybe a 10-minute overview and a 10-minute Defenders overview, and then go
Right into Game of
right into
Thrones
Game of
after that,
Thrones.
yeah.
Is that cool? So
Get them out of the way.
let's keep the Marvel train going here. We all saw the Netflix series, The Defenders. Yes.
Yeah, it was
Yep.
good.
Okay. Overall thoughts, real quick.
Overall thoughts started off slow. As soon as it picked up steam, I couldn't stop watching. So Elektra was incredible on it. All in all, good show. I would say that the 2 Daredevil season 1 and 2 are the best out of all the Marvel stuff, and then after that series, it would go Defenders.
Okay. KB.
Kind of how Don felt like it started slow, and then the middle was like really, really good. But I don't know, like the end to me, I don't know, there was just something missing from the ending.
So
to me.
we're going to be a little spoiler heavy right here, but and Aaron, I'm assuming you haven't seen any of these Netflix. Okay, that's fine.
No,
So, but the
sorry.
idea is they had these 4 individual hero shows, separate series on Netflix, and the Defenders is essentially the team up of all 4 of those heroes together.
Gotcha.
And you have a really cool cast of characters. You have basically Daredevil, played by Charlie Cox, a lawyer who's blind but has extra senses, and basically is mentored by a gentleman by the name of Stick, who basically teaches him to be a ninja, for lack of a better term, and he fights crime. And then you have Jessica Jones, played by Kristen Ritter, who I love. Jessica Jones is probably my favorite series. I know you said Daredevil,
probably mine too.
but she gives no Fs. She's just like this, foul-mouthed.
And you could see it when the way
private-
Defender started off too.
Right, and
Yep.
it's great. And then Luke Cage is kind of like this guy who gets his start in Jessica Jones, but he has his own series where he goes back to Harlem and he's trying to just like help up and clean up the streets.
hero
and
of
be
Harlem.
be like a hero and a role model to
Community.
to the community. And then you have Iron Fist, who he's basically this child who was in a plane crash and was brought to this mythical land called Kunlun and was trained to be their fighting weapon to eliminate their enemy called the Hand, which is a bunch of ninjas. Think of it almost like if you were, which the Ninja Turtles took a lot of, they were kind of like the homage, if you will.
Yeah.
Basically, instead of Stick, you had Splinter. Instead of the Hand, you had the Foot. It's a couple, it's basically a spoof on the Daredevil series, but essentially the Defenders all come together to fight the Hand. And it does start off a little slow, but I think, and John Viveris is saying it's a 6 out of 10. John, while you're watching, let me know what your top 3 series are, or which ones you think rate higher than the Defenders, because I'd like to know that. I just think the Defenders were really great, just the interaction between all the different characters. So you have kind of like Luke Cage, who's kind of like, he knows like really what it's about, and Danny Rand, who plays Iron Fist, who is Iron Fist rather, is still very childlike, and he's even saying like, "I tried to go do it your way. I wore a tie," and Luke Cage is like, "You really think that's what that's all about?" And then just the interaction between Jessica Jones and Daredevil, I thought was great. The interaction, the Heroes for Hire, Luke Cage and Iron Fist was great. Sigourney Weaver playing the villain, which is amazing who would think Sigourney Weaver would be in a Netflix show for superheroes? That's just showing you how like the genre has kind of like
taken over.
Come out. Rich says he gives it a 1 out of 10. Thanks, Rich.
Rich, we'll get some monsters in it for you next
Season.
Rich
has been drinking a little bit.
Hey.
But I really think it was a great series. If you were a fan of any other, and to me, Luke Cage and Iron Fist weren't as strong as the Daredevil seasons and Jessica Jones. I liked Iron Fist for all the flack that it got. I liked it a little bit better than Luke Cage just because I can relate a little bit more to that. But I like the character of Luke Cage so much more in Jessica Jones than I did in his own series. But to see them all come together and play off each other, I think was such the concept. When they were thinking about doing all these other shows and bringing them all together, I thought it was great. So
you really do need to watch the other shows first.
Yep.
You really do. You can be a little lost.
So the way John Viveris ranks it: Daredevil season 1, Jessica Jones; Daredevil season 2, Luke Cage, Defenders, and then Iron Fist. That's how he ranks them, which is interesting.
If he switched Luke Cage and Iron Fist, he'd have the same order as me.
So there you go. And Rich said he doesn't like it because it lacked gore. Well, I'm sorry that a superhero show on Netflix wasn't gruesome enough for you, sir. All right.
Wow, you're really good, huh?
Is that well? That's what I'm saying. This is why I want to talk about Game of Thrones because she's going crazy.
I like that.
All right. Any other thoughts on the Defenders before we bring it to it?
I'm looking forward to seeing where they're gonna go with that. That's all.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's next? Jessica Jones season 2, Daredevil season 3.
Punisher.
Punisher.
No, I thought we get Daredevil season
So
3 before we get any of that.
Spoiler alert: at the end of the Defenders, Matthew Murdock, aka Daredevil, sacrifices himself basically to stop Elektra, and we think he perishes, and then he wakes up, and it's essentially a scene right out of the comics. It looks like they're going to be doing Born Again, I believe. If that's what and John, if you're still on, I know you know that if that's the reference I'm thinking of, but if they do the Born Again storyline for Daredevil season 3, I am so pumped. But John, let me know. So Rich is gore. Let's talk. We saw a movie with Rich.
We did.
And it was a movie called It, based on a book or a novel by Stephen King. Part of an overall structure, which I found out, which again, I'm not a huge Stephen King fan, but I found out some of that information. But let's just start with Don. We all went together to the theater.
I would start on your end because you guys are in agreement.
Okay, well, see,
You guys,
this is why I don't like to talk about it off air. Okay, I'll start from my end. I have not read the book, nor have I seen the 90s miniseries that was on ABC, I believe. So I went in totally blank slate. I really, really enjoyed it. I kind of then, after the movie, I saw the comparisons between Pennywise from the 90s series and from the 2017 movie. And if I had watched the 90s series first, I probably would not have seen the movie because I thought Pennywise, yes, the clown makeup and whatnot, Tim Curry did a great job, but the voice that he chose to use and just the acting of the Georgie scene that I saw, I could not get behind it. And granted, I know it's a mini series for television, so and it was back in 17 years ago, so it's a little bit different. But I thought the movie, the movie was good. It relied a little bit too much on CGI, in my opinion. But I think the acting of the core cast, all those kids, I thought were great. I thought all those kids acted and had the emotional gravitas where they were, the important stuff affected them, but they were also light and they were also like kids, like, hey, we're kids. And
it didn't take itself too seriously.
Exactly. And some people complained about there being too much humor in it, which, again, didn't really bother me as much. But, gentlemen, go ahead. And then, Aaron, if you have any questions, feel free to jump in.
I saw the original with Tim Curry years ago, and I probably hid behind a pillow the entire time, so you can't take my judgment for it. So that's me.
So that's perfect, because on that note right there, like, that is probably the second horror movie I've ever seen in my life. So when they promote something as a horror movie and they're pushing out all these trailers with all these
scary looking scenes,
crazy looking scenes, and I get there and I literally laugh the entire movie, I'm let down. But what like the only way that I can like justify, I guess, going to see this movie and liking it in some ways, it's Stranger Things the movie, just with Pennywise the clown. That's basically what they did. That kid was the lead of the movie. You take that kid out of that movie and you lose the laugh appeal of it, basically. him, the kid, whoever played Eddie was phenomenal, but they tried to play on a lot of things that happened in the original movie. The one that sticks out in my head all the time is Beep Beep Richie, Beep Beep. They didn't bring any of that into the movie the whole time about what a big like jokester he is and
Right.
how like that was how other people made fun of him. They just decided that Pennywise was going to say it out of nowhere in the movie just to rope you back into that original 90s miniseries.
So basically, they were doing like little Easter eggs, if you will.
Little Easter eggs, but still,
So
if you're gonna basically try to make it as close to the original as possible by throwing in like little references like that, you should maybe keep it like steady throughout, like with the bullies, like was their thing with him, like making fun of him, beep beep Richie, beep beep Richie, and then that's why the clown starts like torturing him with it. Dude, the whole like thing with the Eddie being like on all like the crazy like medication that his mother had him on, that's supposed to play a role in the end of, we'll say, the childhood movie. Like, because he builds his courage and, goes and shows like, I don't have asthma and I don't know. There's a lot of
they're
stuff that they
gazebos.
yeah.
He calls them gazebos instead of
Gazebos.
placebos. But I want to point out, for those that have not seen the movie and have seen Stranger Things, Mike from Stranger Things plays Richie.
Yeah.
In this movie, he plays the jokester, and
really good.
I thought it was such a great like turn. That kid is such a good actor, where he plays Mike, and he plays this like a little bit more of a serious role on Stranger Things. He's the lead,
Yeah.
but then he plays the comic relief almost in
Versatile. Very
Yeah,
versatile.
he's him behind I didn't recognize him the first time behind the glasses, and then I was just like looking into it, and I was like, oh my god, that's the kid from Stranger Things. Like,
Oh man, instant. It was instant. The one who played Bill. The kid who played Bill was really, really good. Mm-hmm. He like worked the stutter, everything.
and that's the thing. It's an ensemble cast of 7 like child actors, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
And I think
That
they
pulled it
all,
together, and
I think they all pretty much Bev, the girl that played Bev, like they. And again, I don't know. I haven't seen the 90s series, but the thing with her and her dad, super creepy.
Same thing.
I turned to Rich. I turned to Rich, and Rich is actually, he said he gave it a 9 out of 10.
Rich, are you serious?
Paul Tavares said horror and humor are good together. So I turned to Rich though with both the bully
Brendan,
and
thank you. Jesus.
I don't know what's going on there. I haven't gotten that part yet. But
He's saying he wasn't a fan. He I don't know. Like for Rich to be such a horror fan and to be like amped up for a movie.
but
like
I think
that,
the
I'm
humor
disappointed.
makes it approachable for more people.
Yeah, man.
Makes it a
I
lot
don't
more
know.
approachable.
well, but here's the other point. This is only chapter 1. We don't know. Chapter 2 is going to happen. They're all going to be
do you
adults.
think they can pull off chapter 2?
Oh,
though?
absolutely. After the money it made, they're going.
No, but I mean, have it actually be good.
Yeah, I absolutely. If this was any indication, they have the right. I mean, it's following Stephen King's novel for the most part. I know there's stuff they left out for good reason. Apparently, I was reading it. There's an orgy scene with all like the high school kids that supposedly takes place in the sewer, or they all have fun with Bev. I don't know what that was all about, but they left that out. It was in the book. They left it out of the movie, which I think was a great choice. But yeah, I turned to Rich though. Both the bully in the movie. What's the kid's name? The bully.
I don't even remember.
Well, I can't remember. Like Henry, maybe something like that.
Yeah.
But the bully and Bev's dad, I just turned to Rich in the movie when there was like a downpour. I said, I hate Pennywise because like when he did that thing to Georgie, spoiler alert, he kills Georgie, the little brother. And to me, it's like when the bully is doing his thing and when Bev's father is just being like super creepy. I turned to Rich. I said, you know what? I would cheer Pennywise if it killed both of those, because it made me like really, really hate like those two characters, which of course the movie's supposed to do. So, anything else you want to add to it before? I liked it. I wouldn't go as high as Rich and say 9 out of 10. I would have definitely.
It's like an 8.
I would have
give
given
it
it an 8.5, maybe even a 7. But I thought it was good. I thought the CGI was a little too much, but I definitely like their version of Pennywise. I like the acting from the children. I think all those kids were great.
It broke a lot of records.
It did break a lot of records.
123 million?
Something like that, yeah. For
a horror movie. That's unheard of.
and-
But again, that's playing off of they made
Stranger
all that
Things.
money because of what Stephen King did 20-something years ago.
Yeah.
It's playing off the name. We don't get good horror movies anymore. It's just that's what it's
But
down.
I
comes
also
down
think
to.
it plays off the Stranger Things thing, because now once people see
Exactly.
it, they go back and see it
Right,
again.
and I think
this is like Stranger
that's
Things.
the
Let me bring you
influence.
to this.
Yep.
And they kind of mix those two, and
That's the
they
influence.
did a good job doing it. They
They know how to make money.
So anyway, real quick before we move on, favorite scene.
favorite scene for me in it was the opening scene. Like, I mean, that was the scariest scene out of any of them. Like, seeing the kid's arm get ripped off and dragged in the sewer. Like, I don't think we actually got that in the 90s. I think he just, like, you see him go, rah, and grab him.
You didn't see the gruesome part of it.
No.
But that was the most gruesome part of the...
You know, I'll give thumbs up to this movie for the fact that it showed, like, Pennywise biting on kids, not just, like, a quick cutaway.
Yeah, that scene at the end where he had his mouth over. I can't remember the.
And they all float. Jeff, my buddy
Preview. Jay
said,
Preview.
like that he liked that they tied in that hole. They all float down here thing. I like leaving it a mystery. Like I had no idea what that was about until you get that little scene. So it was cool.
But it was also a callback to the boat that little Georgie had because he's like, you want it to float, don't you?
Yeah.
And that tied it all back to that too, with Bill and Georgie.
But
with
I
the
wonder
boat.
why. But okay, I'll accept that.
My favorite scene was the projector scene.
That was good.
Projector scene was good.
It was the only scene that made me jump back a little bit because of the way it happened.
There was one jump scare that I was not prepared for, and that's the scene with Bev and her dad in the the bathroom rather, and she turns around and Pennywise was right there when he, so again, spoiler alert, he captures her toward the end of the movie, and to me that was the one I wasn't expecting because I was like, okay, all this is happening with her dad, blah blah blah, and then boom, and it's interesting because that's a great tie because she was no longer afraid of her father, which is why she wasn't necessarily afraid of Pennywise anymore, because that was her greatest fear. So it was a very interesting movie. I liked, the idea behind it. It kind of reminded me, there was a little bit of gore. It kind of reminds me almost more, rather than like a slasher or a horror flick, it kind of reminds me of Stranger Things, of like The Ring or something that's more of a
creepiness
suspense
to
and
it.
creepy as opposed to like, a killer out there. But again, I highly recommend it. I know Don being a horror movie guru, he's a little bit more reserved with his judgment. And that's what it's all about, man.
Like I said, if
horror movie guru and he loved it, so
yeah, but
Different opinions, man.
different strokes for different folks.
I was going to say the exact same thing. I'm glad I didn't say that. All right. So now you want to go into
to the realm.
We're going into the realm. So, ladies and gentlemen, I mentioned this a number of times throughout the episode already, but spoilers are about to happen for season 7 of Game of Thrones. Erin's got a whole she took my kind of like my role when we do the countdown, and I research everything very thoroughly. I want Erin to kind of lead this a little bit. No, I do. I do want you. Let's talk. No, let's. You have a lot of notes here, so I want to talk about.
This was just my synopsis, like
all right. Before we get
putting a guess on the spot, how could you?
I can't handle that.
You've
right
never
now.
done
That's
that.
Too much. That's
well,
too much on my shoulders.
I thought Erin was just wants to run with it. I appreciate all the work she put into the like researching all this, but let's just.
No, it wasn't research.
Okay.
It was just making sure, like within each episode, like
She didn't forget.
Yeah, I
anything.
Before we
forget,
get into
exactly.
the details, then
She does.
let's
She's
just
got all the key points.
let's just overview. Out of 10, ranking out of 10, what would you give it, Don?
This season,
Yeah, this season.
8.
Aaron,
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with a 9.
9. KB,
8.5.
I'd go. I'd go with an 8 as well. Now
Dazzling 8.
a dazzling 8. I want to quickly just say before we get into like the crux of all the plot threads that happened. What do we think of the way the scenes moved? Because that was the biggest complaint that I read was that everything moved way too fast in this world.
Yeah,
It has to
that bird got there pretty quickly, huh?
The Ravens.
The Raven got there pretty quickly. It was as fast as a text message.
Yeah.
It seemed to me.
So
Some of that timing stuff felt a little off.
Yeah, I mean, I think so, but also we're at an end game now. We have one season left. We have to tie up all these loose ends and move toward where we're going, moving to that, the end, so to speak. But let's start off with the first episode, I guess, right?
Sure.
First episode, first scene. What do we come into, Aaron?
Oh, we come into Arya kicking butt.
Yeah, so we come into Walder Frey with his entire family having another banquet, and I knew what was going on, but I like to watch these reaction videos, and they're like, I thought he's dead. I'm like, how do you guys not figure this out?
Yeah.
But it was so good. He has his entire family there, pours them all wine, and then in typical Walder Frey fashion, which I love because I love these characters, one of his servants goes to get a glass. He's like, I'm not going to waste my good wine on a damn woman.
Yes.
And I'm like, that's like those characteristics. That actor was able to play Walder and then kind of go into Arya's character as she poisons the entire Frey family and wipes out that house as basically retribution for the Red Wedding. to me, that was my favorite scene of the first episode. I was
Definitely.
hooked right from there. It was a cold open,
Yep.
too. They didn't go in with the credits and then start with that scene. That scene started the
Then they
entire
rolled the credits.
season 7
Right.
and then went into
Yeah.
the credits. Do you have anything, Erin, to say on that? Anything additional to what I...
Oh, it was just that moment that you were waiting for, that sweet, sweet revenge.
So I want to kind of just get into this real quick because Erin and I now talk at work about Game of Thrones, and she got into it late, right? So she
did.
basically within the last like 6 months, I would say, you started season 1 and been,
Yeah, I've probably seen the last couple months.
Okay, so let's
I
say 3
binged.
months. Last 3 months,
Wow.
you've
I
binge watched
binged,
seasons
yeah.
1 through 6.
I did.
And I, every few days I would talk to you, and I remember this very vividly. We were talking about, I believe it was season 3 or season 4. You're like, I'm so happy for Rob and his wife. They're so in love. And I'm
You're
just
just like,
That season,
I know.
what season is that, Don?
that's like 3.
It's 3. It's going to be 3.
Yeah.
The Red Wedding season
Yeah.
3.
Yep.
So she was just like, I'm so happy, like, oh my God. So, and I'm like, and I bit my lip so hard because I knew that heartache that you were going to feel.
Yep.
And to me, like that's what I think of. And then that scene with Arya starting season 7, basically finally getting revenge, I thought was perfect.
That one mistake on Rob's end made everything else happen. Granted, like everything else was in the works, but if Rob didn't marry that girl, Rob marries the pretty Frey girl, then he's got all their army. Roose Bolton doesn't leave him. The Costocks never have to battle.
the story
with
doesn't
them.
even happen at this point.
Exactly.
Right,
The
yeah.
whole north and like all the wetlands join up with Rob, and that's it.
The things you do for love, though, man, you can't
Yeah.
forget.
It's
That's it.
crazy.
And,
Battle of the Bastards would never happen.
Nicole
Wouldn't
Silva,
even get to that.
Nicole
Nicole
Silva.
Silva, hey.
On Facebook Live says best revenge ever. I absolutely agree. And we're going to be getting to another scene toward the end of the season that I really, really like. But let's just talk about anything else. What are some of your other notes, Erin, from episode 1? You have anything else?
Yeah, like Ed Sheeran makes a little music cameo.
Yeah.
into
What do we
this.
think of Ed Sheeran doing?
I think it's like stupid that everyone was trying to bomb this guy on the internet. Like, why wouldn't you want to be part of Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
Right. Somebody asked me if I was famous for something, like if I was like a famous like juggler or something, and they're like, we want to put you in King's Landing, like in front of Tommen as like his.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm down.
Bro,
I'm
they'd
down.
be like, hey, listen, we need a guy to shovel manure just in the corner of the screen. Yeah, sure, you got that.
Yeah.
Come on.
yeah.
Like, it's Game of Thrones. And he was awesome. His
Yeah?
voice was awesome.
Right.
His little song was good.
Yeah.
Like, that was
I
that
think
was
it
a
was
good...
like, yeah, it was definitely like a nice, just like her kind of being herself when she's like, yeah, I'm going to kill the queen. And they're like, yeah, okay, whatever. And she's like, no, I really am. And she was just kind of able to.
Well, I loved it because,
chat.
and that's the perfect thing about, because she's so unassuming. She's done that a couple of times where she'll say something. She's like, oh, I'm going to do it. And they just dismiss her because they're like, you're just a small girl. And you don't know what you're in store for.
Last time she sat down with Lannister soldiers, she ended up killing all of them. Between her and the Hound, killed them all.
Yep.
Yeah.
I thought it was a breath of relief that she just sat there and didn't kill them. And it's different now in her head. Like, her mindset is, I could easily kill every one of them. I don't have to. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go kill the queen. And even if they did believe it, they'd all die.
I like the
Arya
Hound
is,
more
like,
and more every time I see him.
amazing.
Yes, I'm in agreement with that. Amazing. He's just one of my favorites.
What else happened in the first episode? What else we got?
They closed with Jorah with his arm extending
Well, so
from the cell.
that was great. So a
yeah,
lot of people
that made
didn't
me
get
jump.
that, and which
Yeah.
So yeah, we basically come into Samwise Tarly, who's now working to become a maester, and it's very gross. He's doing all these.
It is like the
bedpans.
grossest job ever.
As he's picking up the trays, you see this arm dart out from behind a door, and he asks if she's here yet. The Dragon
Yes,
Queen
yes,
Daenerys,
yes.
and you see all the scales on the arm, and I was like, as you know,
Thinking he's done.
I know.
and that's the
I
thing.
felt
So
bad.
for those that watched our recap episode, Jorah is one of my top 3 favorite characters in this series. And to me, I was like, oh my God, like it's gotten so bad. What are they gonna do? And we'll find out a couple episodes later. What else happened? Speaking of Queen Daenerys, we see her finally,
Step foot on what, Dragonstone? Or was that
yeah,
the end of-
finally arrive,
She
and
makes it.
crosses the seas.
Yep.
You know what was really good? She meets the Red Woman, doesn't she? Right off the rip. In that first episode, she meets Melisandre.
No,
Yep.
no, she does not.
Or is it- no, it's after.
Because what happens is
yeah.
the scene was played beautifully. They land. There's no score. There's no music. There's no dialogue.
Just quiet.
She
Yeah.
walks up. She goes in. She sees what Stannis has done to,
Yeah.
all the stuff. She's ripping that stuff down. She doesn't even sit on the throne. She walks right to the war room. Has the map. She pauses for a little bit, looks around. Tyrion's there. He's looking around, and the episode ends with Shall we begin?
Yep.
Boom,
That's-
right to
Yeah,
right to
that was
credits,
great.
and
Oh, man.
that was so perfect. It was so
empowering.
poignant.
I love
Jennifer
Davos
Soares Lazaro.
rolls up and he's like, "Yeah, things have definitely changed around here."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to shout out Jennifer Soares Lazaro saying Jay Free. Hello, Jen. Welcome to the show. Welcome to watching. Thank you for watching. Erin, anything else, episode 1, that you have on your notes? I'm going to just start referring to you now because you have all these
don't
notes.
do that. These are just my own little.
Yeah, but you're the most prepared person here.
No, I'm not. Come on, all 4 of us can't come up with some stuff. Come on.
What else happened? Let's see. Did anything happen with Sansa? I know. Did John decide to leave?
No,
No,
because
not at that
he hasn't
point.
been called yet.
No.
So was that the episode? And I can't remember if him and Sansa first started butting heads with what to do,
Yep.
with
I think it
how
might-
to.
Was that in 2 or 3 where they first get the Raven from Tyrion saying that
They're
Dany
debating whether he
wants-
should leave or
right,
not.
Exactly,
Right.
because that happens,
If
and
it's a
then they
trap
get a letter
and-
from the Lannisters the second
Right.
time, and then she sends
See,
Brienne in her
that's
place.
why you have
so.
the notes.
This is what you're talking about, though. So John is sitting there now as King of the North, deciding what to do with the rest of the Bolton family, the Glover family, and anybody who didn't side up with him and who sided with the
Karstarks
Boltons.
too,
The
right? Yeah.
Well,
Karstarks.
No.
I don't know if Rob killed out all the Karstarks, but actually no, he just killed the head
No,
of the family.
no,
You're
because
right. Hey, you're 100%
Isn't
right.
there because there's that part with the younger kids that are left over?
Yeah.
And he's
That's-
like,
that's
that's
the
a
scene
little
we're
bit. That's a
talking
little
about.
bit. Yeah, I think
A little
that's.
later.
I think that might be episode
Yeah,
2 or
because
3.
Sansa
Yeah.
kind of not belittles him, but she's like, so there's a reward for treason or something to that effect, and there's a line that she says, and I can't remember it, and it's kind of like challenging John.
I like how
you know?
John's like they shouldn't be punished for the sins of their fathers. and
Others,
stuff.
yeah, no, I agree. I agree with that. It's really good.
I think it was the Karstarks because he was like, it's been going on for so long. And
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Oh.
All right, so let's move on to episode 2 then, because that's a very good point, because we're going to see throughout this season, Sansa is basically, she has a conversation with John, and she basically tells him, "I don't want to see you make the same mistakes that Robb and Father made." And then she goes, because this goes back to what we talked about. He receives a raven from Cersei saying to come bend the knee to him, and she basically says to not go because that's a mistake that you can make. And John, and there's a little hint that Sansa actually had her hair in a similar fashion to Cersei had a couple of seasons earlier. And John says to her, "It almost seems like you admire her." And she goes, "I learned a lot from her."
Yep. I
And
remember that.
Sansa is forming into it, even though she's got a little finger in her ear, kind of like the devil on her shoulder, like trying to like play his own little game. She is becoming such a good leader as well.
And she can lead in the most
I loved when
awful
she
way
was
possible
walking
because
when
she's
she
like,
was walking through the castle, and was it a smith or something? Thank you. When it was like a smith or something, she's like, "Shouldn't this have, what was it, leather or something?
shouldn't
Or
this
shouldn't this have, what
shouldn't
was
this
it?"
armor be boiled
Boiled.
leather? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because winter's here now, so anything metal
It's
would
like
stick.
she's a leader paying attention to the details.
yeah.
You know,
Let's move on to episode 2 though, because I want to kind of put a pin in that and talk about how that comes into play at the end of the season.
Okay.
E, what do you got for
Come
episode
on.
2?
I don't like being put on the spot.
Well,
so the
pressure
letter,
on.
I know. Jeez, Louise. Guys, come on. You're killing me right
Well,
now.
we don't know. We don't
All
know
you
what.
gotta do is stop me off.
Yeah, just say
Well,
something.
Melisandre
okay.
and Danny that's when that comes in that conversation.
So that's where the meeting is, where we're not sure who the Lord of Light is, who the prince or princess that was promised
Promise, yep.
was. We find out that there's a translation difference in Old Valerian and to how it translates into new language, I guess. But the best part of it is finally what we've been waiting for. Like, we've wanted to see Jon Snow and Daenerys. Like, we've seen their whole, like, mission from, like, being broke bottom feeders to where they are now. And she's setting up this meeting for them. Like, listen, I don't know who's going to be, the prince that was promised or princess that was promised, but I know that you play a role and so does this guy, so you guys have to meet. I flipped out during this episode. I was, like, wiling out over, like, filler stuff. To me,
Yeah.
like, usually I get, like, really fired up over action, but this was one of those episodes I was like, oh, finally, yes, make this happen. Like, I get excited about this episode.
You know what I like in it too? I like it too with when you get those little tidbits of information. It's like when you're tying your shoe and you pull the laces tighten, because that's everything. It's pulling everything together. It's the in between that matters the most, to pull the basically the not just the different plot lines, but the motivations of each character together.
Yeah.
What they're working towards, and those little moments. Yes, of course, the battles and the fighting are typically the end result, but it's the reasons why and the basically all just the in between information that really adds the meat to the story, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So we get that note, and then that's when is that when John receives it, or is the next episode where he gets in that discussion with Sansa?
think it might be the next, because I think
Yeah.
Sam sends him a raven that there's dragon glass at Dragonstone. So that's
That
another
was
reason why that he's like, yes, we
Yeah. 'Cause
definitely
that
have
raven
to go
comes
see
first.
things. Right.
So Sam, doing his due diligence as training to be a maester, is looking over and finds, and it's very interesting as he's flipping through the book. We see the knife that is held.
Littlefinger's knife.
Littlefinger's knife. I can't think of the name of it. It's like the cat's paw, or something like
Yeah,
that.
something like that.
We see the knife, and then we also see that he's flipping through, and he sees that there's dragon glass, and it's really really cool. And he sends that raven to Jon. So now Jon's got another reason now, again from what the Red Woman says, from all that the prince or princess who was promised, and now we're gonna have the meeting of two characters that have never met on the show, because again Daenerys has been across the sea doing her
Yeah.
own thing. She hasn't met a lot of the main characters. And again, we'll talk about that a little bit later. We'll put a pin and go back to that. But also, is this the same episode that, do you mark down this is where Arya sees Nymeria? Or is that?
Yes,
So-
that is this
That's interesting.
episode. Yes.
So that to me is another good one because she's going towards, before that, isn't that where she's going before that, where she's in a tavern and she meets
Hot Pie.
We come back to see
Yes.
Hot Pie.
Who
and we
tells
have-
her that Jon is back?
Yes.
Which it's interesting to me that she's aware that when she does this whole speech as Walder Frey, you murdered a woman pregnant with her child, slit a mother's throat. How did she know all that? But she didn't know that Jon Snow came down and won the battle of the bastards. But yeah, Hot Pie's the one to tell her.
Tunnel vision. Simple. When you have a goal that you need to accomplish, you don't care about anything else. I don't care what's going on over here or anywhere else. I'm killing Cersei. I'm killing Walder Frey. I'm killing the Mountain. I'm killing Sir Meryn. Like,
Can we?
I think the stories are told though. She knows through all the stories that are told from the Red Wedding. I mean, think about it. It's like 2 or 3. It's
well,
3
I mean,
seasons.
Yeah, she was literally
yeah.
there though. She was outside, and then look, she heard the stories from
Yeah,
the soldiers.
that's what I'm saying. You
outside
hear all
camp.
the stories
She
and
even
details.
saw her brother with the wolf
wolf's head.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she even saw him. So before the hot pie scene, because this is like the most, I don't know, maybe stomach turning scene is when
Great point.
that's
Thank you.
how we get into the whole
Thank you.
hot pie thing. Because
So-
I just didn't
no,
want to
I
miss
like this.
that,
Thank you. Thank
because
you.
that
E.
was
Thank you. So let's talk
Because
about
I'm
this.
rooting for the not underdog, but I'm rooting for
So-
Jorah to come back.
Sam realizes that it's Jorah Mormont, and used to be commanded by his father at the Night's Watch.
Mm-hmm.
So he decides, while he's doing some research as well, he wants to try to figure out how to cure what is it? What's the
grayscale.
The grayscale. Thank you. I was going to call it dragon scale. The grayscale. And he's reading, and basically the way he reads on how to do it, you got to carve it all off and then put some ointment.
Put Neosporin on it.
Some
Pick the
cortisone
scab-
cream on
yeah,
there.
Yeah.
Seriously, pick off the scab,
Which is-
put some cream, and you're good.
Which is interesting because nobody ever thought to do that before.
You're wrong. Somebody thought to do it.
Well, they did it
Obviously.
did,
100
but-
times, and
I
it only
think, I think
it
they
only
got
worked
creeped
4
out.
times.
Yeah, and they probably got creeped out that they didn't want to.
and it was the
catch it.
one maester that did it, right?
Yeah,
But-
and then he ended up dying of it. But still, he
Right.
wasn't the one who cured Shireen. Shireen was cured with dragonglass somehow. Like dragonglass ended up stopping the spread of her grayscale.
Yep. Which is again based on where she was living and where Stannis was
Yeah.
making his headquarters. Very, very interesting. But I want to point out to your point. So he basically starts operating, if you will, on Jorah, and he's cutting in, and it's probably the grossest scene of
Yeah.
yeah.
season 7. And then they transition from that.
You
as
feel the
you're
pain
seeing,
of
like,
that scene.
Yeah,
the-
you do.
the
You really
Especially
do.
when he's biting the belt, you're like, oh god.
So Sam is cutting into this grayscale, and you see the pus and the bile and all that other stuff coming out, and it's just they segue into somebody digging into a pie and pulling out a creamy center of a pie, and it was disgusting, but it was amazing at the same time. And that's when we're reintroduced to Hot Pie, who then sees Arya, and
He hits on her too.
yeah, he does kind of hit on her. He's like, I can't believe I ever thought you were a boy. You're pretty. And she's like, sorry, bro. I got stuff to do.
Right.
I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that.
No.
So she, she makes her way. She starts making her way, and then she has like the fork in the road. Is she going to go to King's Landing, or is she going to go back and see Jon and see Sansa? And
Well, it shows that she never let go of who she was. That
Well-
she'll never
Right.
truly be a faceless man because she still holds on to Arya Stark.
yep,
If
yeah.
that would have showed her decision right there, if she would have went to King's Landing and killed Cersei, I don't think she would have ever made her way back to Winterfell. Furthermore, I don't know what she would do once she finished her list. if she'd be empty inside. Like there are reasons why she didn't stick around with them. Like I don't think she'd ever really be willing to let go. Going way back to like season, I don't know, I want to say 5 when she first got to the House of Black and White, when she was getting ready to throw that sword and Wayne couldn't do it.
She's gonna do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know from that point on, like she can't finish this. Like she can't
The
give
training.
herself to
Yeah.
them.
No.
No
you
sense
could
in
tell.
finishing if she's not a Stark,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I think it's interesting because in that same, I believe it's that episode, she's out there in the woods and she gets surrounded by a pack of wolves.
Yeah.
And then the leader, if you will, of this pack of wolves is her dire wolf, Nymeria. And then when she recognizes that, she says, "Come with me, girl. Let's go back home. We're going home."
Yeah.
And instead of the wolves attacking, Nymeria kind of just backs off and then leaves her, which I thought was a very kind of...
Sad moment.
it was sad, but it was
But it's
also very
profound, I felt.
poetic.
Yeah.
Profound is another good way to say it. Because it's like, and then she says under her breath, that's not you.
Yeah.
That this is not you anymore. You're not the same person, just like I'm not the same person. You're not the same wolf I raised that's from a pup. You're different. You've been on your own. You're a different person now. So is she. She's not going to go back home and be the same Arya that she was, because she does have this skill set and she does have this desire and this mission, if you will.
Yeah.
Speaking of direwolves, where's Ghost?
Great question.
Ghost has been just locked up.
MIA. Is he
No,
still at the wall?
I read a whole article about it. Yeah, he's like literally at the wall, like locked up in a cage, or at Winterfell locked in a cage. He's not. His purpose is really not needed right now.
Right.
At
He'll
least
come
on
back.
the- at
He'll
least
come
with the
back when
TV
he's needed.
stuff. I mean, but when he comes back, what is a direwolf going to do against the army of dead? Now we're into dragons now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like realistically, he'd be phenomenal in a battle, maybe to jump on and get the hell out of there. But now we're into like shapeshifters, because now Bran has to play a big role if Bran is going to play a role that the internet is hyping him up to be. So
Okay, does he defend Brand
does he defend Bran?
in
No.
a situation?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Bran
I
can't
mean,
move
Bran could
and-
easily control him, but I don't think so.
Yeah, that's right, because he can warg too.
Well,
and
that's
he's a green
seer.
Thank you.
So here's the
also
thing.
like that.
Let's talk about Bran a little bit, because at some point Bran
It comes
ends
back
up-
a broody teenager. I just
Well, no,
thought it was
as-
kind of
as-
funny.
As Arya starts to make that decision, she decides to go home. We later hear somebody, Jon leaves to go meet Daenerys, and somebody comes to tell Sansa that, there's somebody here, and you all think it's going to be Arya, and it turns out to be Bran. And he's totally different. And Sansa even basically kind of notices that they're right in front of the tree, and he basically recants how she looked when she got married. And to me, you can kind of see like that actor kind of encompasses the three-eyed raven, that character that it was, and now
Yeah.
he's kind of overtaken. Wonderful acting just to kind of like take that like personality. He's total, and even what's the girl that brings him there? What's her
Marine.
name?
Marine. Yeah.
Marine, yeah, I was
He-
just,
she
like the
basically
way that
says-
he brushed her off. That was
Ugh.
disgusting. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my god, her
My
little
heart broke.
brother.
Yeah,
the
my
man-
heart broke
oh.
for her. I'm like, all of these sacrifices that she made along the way to get him to the three-eyed
Yes.
raven, so he could do his thing, then get him back home. And then he's like,
Go away.
bye, Felicia. And she's like, and she's just kind of looking at me. And he's like, I remember what it's like to be Bran, but I remember everything else. So I mean, I just felt so bad for her. I was like, oh
man.
gosh. He did. He brushed her off.
Do you have any other notes that you want to mention on episode 2 before we go into?
Samwell Tarly's family kind of make a quick cameo in with Cersei while she's getting her
Yeah,
people together. So I thought that was
Randall Tully's a beast.
he is. He definitely is. And I feel bad because Sam is such like he's a book smart kid. There's nothing wrong with that. And his dad's just doesn't want to hear it. And
It's crazy. So we only get to see Dickon like a few times, which obviously they butt jokes on, but
Right.
it's funny. He's like that, that golden boy. Like that's I can understand. He saw it.
I'm not
He
going to comment
saw
on
it.
that. I'm not going to comment.
So what?
We'll talk about it later. We'll
Show
talk
her.
about it later.
Show her.
Oh, no. It's not something I did, was it?
No.
Oh, thank
It's
God.
a nice. It's a little dazzler picture we posted.
Oh,
Oh, man.
great.
All right, sorry. We're going to take a quick
That's
break.
that's
as
your
we're talking
prom
about-
pic right there. Yes, you are. Oh, sorry, folks.
Oh, I love it. You look like
So-
Lenny Kravitz behind
So there you go.
this.
J. Free Kravitz and
Oh,
Dazzler
man.
chilling out.
Right.
That's a
love
great. Thank you. Who made that, by the way? Let's go for those that don't know what we're talking about and those that are watching the live. If you go back to Free Your Geek, podcast on Facebook, you'll see the image. I'll pin it to the top for a while, and you guys can feel free to comment on it because I think it's hilarious. But yeah, what other notes? Let's get back on the track.
Back on track.
Because come on.
Who the maester? That's
Hold on. How
right.
long were you thinking about looking at that picture?
I wasn't,
Like,
honestly. I was just
the
going to
time
pull
you
up
said
the
it,
video.
I find that hard to believe.
No, here's the thing. I had to close the Facebook page to reopen it because I wanted to see if the comments, it was freezing up. So I had to go back to our Facebook page, and that image struck me. So I brushed right by it because I wanted to pull up and see if anybody else commented on it because Brandon Wood's going ham right now in the comments, and I love it.
What the hell is he talking about, though? Sometimes the pull of the seasons.
Yeah, because he's saying the pull when I was talking about the laces to bring it all together. To tie.
Oh,
He's
my
saying
God,
sometimes it takes
I'm-
a full
I'm-
season to bring it all together. And I think that's very astute and very observant of him. So I'm sorry, Aaron, please.
no.
go ahead.
Come on.
What else? What else?
I
So
thought you Jay Kravitz.
we see
Jay Kravitz.
Jay
This is-
Kravitz. Sorry. So is it the maester? Is it, how do you say that? Is it cake?
Oh, Kyburn.
Qyburn, thank you. He shows Cersei the crossbow in the dungeon, making me feel a little anxiety with Dany's dragons because I do not want them hurt. I think everybody probably feels the same
Yep.
way. You know, we've been with them since they were babies, so we don't want them hurt. So she shows, he shows her that, so she's feeling pretty, powerful. But they do have a scene where some big key players are with Dany, like Lady Olenna, telling Dany to kind of,
Yeah, this is good. This is good.
Let's. I think she was saying I learned to be the best by not listening to other people, or something to that effect.
Oh, he's a smart
you know?
man. I've stood a lot.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. I know you know what I'm saying.
Alive a lot longer than smart men. That's
Because she's basically done what she needs to do, basically telling Dany, like, you have a room full of advisors, but at the end of the day, sometimes you do need to get on the back of your dragon.
What's the quote?
he wants you to be a sheep. You're a dragon.
Be a dragon.
dragon.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
Lady Olenna, I wish she was my Vavo. That's all I'm about
my
to say. I wish
Fantastic.
she
Be
was.
my grandma
We're
any
gonna,
day.
Right?
we're gonna get in her in
Come
a
get
second.
some fava beans and the goddess.
We're gonna get back in her in a
Aaron,
second.
are you hungry? I loved my Vo, God rest her soul. But sorry. Okay, yeah.
No,
so I
let's-
loved
let-
that meeting.
Let's
because
talk about who else is on like Camp
Let's talk
Daenerys.
about Team Girl Power.
Yeah.
Yep.
Daenerys.
The
head
Sand
of
Scorpions.
Yep. Olenna. I can't even think of Theon's name right now.
Oh, Yara.
Yara.
Yep.
But that's Team Girl Power over there.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, I mean, I don't know. Like Cersei's really looking hurting right now. When she called her banners, like I'm jumping ahead, but even when she called her banners, there was like 5 houses there.
It's like that's not an
Yeah.
army.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
No.
Losing the phrase was huge, even though they
Yep.
were like a trash army. That's a trash army to stick in front of you.
That's right. And keep that.
So
Cannon fodder.
What's that?
Cannon fodder.
Yeah. Hey.
So we see who was Team Cersei. We basically
she had the Tallies, but actually she was genius. She went and wiped out Highgarden and took all their money.
that's what I want to talk
Yeah,
about.
the High Guard
That's what I
thing
want
is
to talk about.
interesting.
That's a great scene. So basically, we see Tyrion kind of plotting. He's like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. We don't want to bring the dragons into King's Landing because you don't want to scare the people. So we'll have these people. This is where we're gonna hit. We're gonna hit Casterly Rock because this is where this is what's gonna be important. And he goes there, and the Unsullied go there. That's where, because he's talking about the Greyjoys. He's talking about Dorne. He's talking about the Tyrells and all this other stuff. And we're going to use them to go do this. And they're like, what about your armies? You have the Dothraki. You have the Unsullied. What are you going to do with them? He's like, we're going to hit Casterly Rock because that's their area of power. The Unsullied go there. They take the ships. They win easily. And they realize that
That's how
there's
smart Jamie is.
there's nobody here.
Yeah.
There's
Jamie's
nobody
a genius.
here.
Took all the food out, cleared it out.
Yeah.
All it is what do you call it? Like a figure.
It's
you know?
barren. It's totally
Yeah.
barren. And the entire army is in Highgarden. And that leads to one of my favorite scenes in the episode. But let's talk about who else is on Team Cersei before we talk about that Highgarden scene.
She's only got the Tarleys.
We have another Greyjoy.
She has
Yeah, that's
She
right.
has Euron, and that means with Euron, she's got the strongest navy
Yep.
on the, I guess, planet.
And he wants to in the earlier season, the season before, he kind of made it seem like he was going to go after Daenerys, but now he looks like he wants to kind of get in bed, for lack of a better term, with Cersei, and kind of
Smartest
get, and like he wants to. So he said he'll be back with the present, and that leads to another. So we have the Greyjoys sailing their ships. They get ambushed. 2 of the 3 sand snakes are gone, and he captures.
Her favorite daughter and whatever the
I can't think of her name.
Ilara and
Yep.
Tiara or something like that. Ty.
So he captures them
Tyreen
too,
or
and he does it as
Tyreen.
revenge for the death of Myrcella.
Smartest thing. Came back with the
And-
gift. I'll
And-
give you the gift that nobody could give, not
Yeah.
even Jamie.
Yeah.
He is actually, like, for the crappy person that he is easily becoming one of my favorite characters. Like, I hate him more than I hate Cersei. Mm-hmm. Like, he's that good.
As far as vile villains, though, because Cersei's been there since day one. We've had Joffrey,
He just don't care.
we've had Ramsay, and we've had Euron. I don't think he's going to be as bad. He's a different type of vile.
Yeah, I
where
was
he'll
just gonna
say
say
certain
that,
things,
yeah.
and he's very crude and rude and lewd.
And comic relief too,
Yeah,
like him in
yeah.
the side conversation he's having with Jamie about how his sister likes it.
Oh
and
my
he's
God,
like,
yeah.
since
He's like
got
the
2
opposite.
hands,
He's like
you
Can
know?
you give me any pointers? There's
Yeah,
like a little
yeah.
tickling.
and he's just
So
yeah.
he
He's very
provides some
crass.
relief. Yeah,
He
definitely.
kind of reminds me of the other side of the coin as of Bronn, because Bronn's very much like that.
Yes.
And he's very like,
If you know what I like about him too is Oberyn's one of my favorite characters. He is the negative version of Oberyn. He went and traveled the world and learned all sorts of fighting styles like Oberyn, like that was his thing. So when he comes back, I don't know. It was good. It sucked that Oberyn ended up getting his head smashed, but again,
that's another thing that kind of started this whole thing, and then it
All
started
stuff's
the
gonna-
sand snakes, and it started the death of Myrcella,
Marcella, yeah.
and
Tristan and all them. They all got
so-
it. I couldn't even tell you guys who's on the small council right now.
Yeah.
Like,
Is there one?
since my God, since the Tyrell father got killed,
Yeah.
that's really the last I remember.
Yeah.
Couldn't tell you who the last hand of the king was. Wait, Qyburn. Qyburn's the hand of the king and the
Yeah, that's
Maester.
right. That's right.
The
And the
leader
mountain
of,
is just her, I don't know, zombie bodyguard. Like I
I was
don't
gonna
even
say
know.
he's the head of the Queen's Guard. That's
Yeah.
really it. There's no master. Because wait, Qyburn's everything.
Yeah.
He's the
Yeah, he
master of
is.
whisperers. He's everything
He's
now.
everything.
but there's another character in Cersei's team that is going to prove, which can't wait to see it next season, Clegane Bowl.
Oh yes, bring it on.
That'll be very interesting.
He's
I
coming
love-
for you.
But let's go
Yeah.
back to now to Highgarden. So basically, the Greyjoys get wiped out. What's her face? Yara is her
Yep,
name?
Yara.
Gets
Yes,
captured,
yep.
along with the 2. What's her name? Alara.
Theon jump ship.
Alara, yeah.
Yeah, and
Alara's the mom. Sorry.
Theon basically
Oh, poor
doesn't
Theon.
have
He's
a
just a
set
hot
any
mess.
PSD.
Yeah.
PTSD.
Theon
yeah,
had
he's
a-
a hot
PTSD
mess.
rather.
He had a chance
When he-
to
when he-
be Theon again, but all that
Yep.
chaos around him brought Reek right
See,
back out,
Yep.
and he jumped over.
I almost feel like, though, even from a tactical perspective, isn't it better to retreat in that situation?
Well,
Because even if you beat him
it's
there,
a double-edged sword. It's no pun intended. He had a knife to her throat. He had a sword to her throat. He wouldn't have made it before she
that's
had
what I'm
her.
saying.
No,
Like,
he
so
wouldn't
is
have.
it
No,
almost
guys,
better
but-
to do what he did?
But you could
Guys,
see
we know him as a character. He would throw her to the ground and want to fight Theon and have her watch Theon die, then get killed herself, or
That's
her
very
brought
true,
back
too.
to Cersei.
Yep.
Theon's character, for all the times that we've hated him over and over, is now on an upward. Like, his wave is coming back up now.
Yeah.
Because from him saving Sansa, like, oh wait, I don't hate
It's-
him so much anymore.
right.
And now
we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to
yeah,
that.
I mean, we're at a point now where, unfortunately, like maybe earlier in this season or at the end of last season, he's like telling somebody like, "I'm here to protect her. Like, if anybody messes with her, I protect my sister." And then boom, like literally right at the end of that episode, like
Jumps.
here's the opportunity,
And he's,
and he's like, "Yeah, I don't need this sword."
Yep.
It was
It's-
nuts, but
it's-
still, like, never mind. We'll get into it.
No, yeah,
as,
we're
we,
gonna-
as we get further in episodes.
But then, as we mentioned, Highgarden.
Yep.
Jamie took all the troops there.
oh, you're coming up to one of my
The,
favorite.
the Tyrells, they have the coin, and so they hit them, and basically the entire. We talked a little earlier.
Well, they wanted the
about-
crops and food because they were running low on
right?
food.
Yeah.
But
That
we
was the
also
big
we
thing.
also talked about the Freys getting wiped out, and another family wiped out, another house wiped out. Now the entire Tyrells are wiped out, save for what's the grandmother's name?
Elena.
Elena. All right, so we get to that scene. Erin, why don't you talk about this since it's one of your favorites?
She's such a boss. That's all I have to say. So, I basically had to write because this was probably one of my favorite parts. So when her and Jamie are sitting together, and he pours her wine and she's like, how are you going to do it? Is it, and he says, oh, my sister was going to do X, Y, and Z. And he says, but I convinced her to, poison you. So he pours it in, and she starts to say, like, she's a disease and I regret my role in spreading it, and you will too. And he's like, that's enough. It's enough. So you can just tell that in his head, he's probably playing a little bit of a tennis match because he knows his sister's a little crazy, but he's got to do what he set out to do. So she drinks it. And she's like, tell Cersei it was me. Like, I mean, obviously she gives the backstory with Joffrey. I didn't think it was going to be the...
She gave the detail
Yeah,
to prove,
so
let's
prove that it was...
Here's-
Picking up my neck. Ugh.
Yeah.
Here's the deal with that, though. I love
Turning
how
gray.
he puts the poison in the wine.
Yes.
And she goes, will it hurt? I believe she says something along the line, will it be
Yes.
painful? He's like, no, it's going to be quite quick. She takes it, and she just downs it.
Yes.
Done.
And then instantly
Like a
rolls
boss,
into the
like you
speech
said.
because I wouldn't want to
Yeah.
die like his son.
Oh, that was probably one of my favorite parts of this entire season.
If she's going to go out, she's going to drop the mic.
She
What
is
I
a boss.
love though is
She's
you
a
touched
boss.
on what not too many, like everybody jumps right to that scene where like, oh, she drank the wine and went into it. But the whole conversation that you spoke of, like with her and Jamie
Yes.
beforehand, and Jamie's like, yeah, it's too late for me. Like this,
Yeah.
like,
'Cause she
yeah,
even-
she's gotten to me,
Yes,
but it's too late.
Because she even said, she goes, "You're really in love with her," and
Yeah.
like you don't even like you said earlier, the things we do for love. But like she basically says, like, your sister is a disease,
Which
and
tying
and you can see his face, like, I know, like I'm basically in agreement with all these things, like, but like you said,
Yeah.
it's too late. Like it's sorry.
Well, as I say, you mentioned the callback when I said the things you do for love. That's one of the first things Jamie said before he pushed Bran out from
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
to the things I do for love.
Good tie-in.
And it's to me, and to kind of tie back to him being the Kingslayer, when Cersei used the wildfire to blow up the Sept.
Yeah.
Yes.
A little while, and she sat on the throne. Now all her kids are gone. The scene where she sat down, and now Jamie
Jamie's
comes
looking
back
at
to
her.
this, and he's like, "This is the same reason I killed the Mad King, because
King.
he wanted to do
Right.
something very similar."
Agreed.
And to your point about playing that tennis match, you're absolutely right. He's kind of like weighing his feelings versus like this is.
Because even in episode 7, when he clearly fulfills her promise that
Oh,
she's
we'll-
not
we'll-
going to.
we'll
I know
be
we'll put a pin
talking
in it,
about
but
that,
and so. But just to wrap up episode 3, John and Davos, they reach Dany. Varys and Melisandre have their side conversation about how they're both going to return. Well, she is going to return to Westeros because that's where she has to die, just like Varys had to.
That's an interesting.
So that was a little side
foreshadowing.
conversation. She calls him Dear Spider. And I don't know.
Did Arya get back to Winterfell at this point?
I don't believe so.
I think it's
No.
the next
But-
episode.
No,
isn't it?
yeah,
I wanna-
because Bran comes into Winterfell on 3. So
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's Bran coming back. I want to talk about one thing before you move on,
Sure.
though. That scene where the scene where John and Dany are both they meet each other for the first time?
it's so
It's-
it's so awkward. Like
It
John's
is.
just like
Well,
like,
you know,
I'm not
breaker
bending
of
the
chains-
knee.
Breaker
what
of
is
chains. This is that.
happening?
This is Jon Snow, the King of the North. And it was so awkward, and I love that little,
yeah, it
just a
was
little bit of humor and a
humor.
little bit
Yeah,
of
it was
awkwardness, just
great.
kind of break the tension. I
was
thought
great.
it was great.
Yep, and Ilaria, her daughter got the kiss of death in this.
Yes,
episode,
let's talk about
so-
that. So we talk about poison with Elena.
Yes.
Also, poetic justice
Yes, for Cersei.
for Cersei. But again, and we talked about this. Think about who's really at fault with this whole thing between Cersei and oh my God, what's their last name from Dorne?
The Sand.
not the Sand.
She's a her.
Oh,
she's a Sand.
Martells,
Martells,
right?
the
They're
Martells,
Okay.
the Martells and the Lannisters.
I mean, yeah, but we're gonna be going back for a long time.
But
Tracing
Oberyn
who's-
put himself in that position for
Right.
the trial by combat to be killed by the
But why
Mountain.
did Oberyn put himself in that position for trial?
Because
Tywin gave the order for Mountain. That's what I mean. Like we're
I
gonna
don't even
keep
have
going
to
back.
chime in. She's
Yeah.
good.
But that's what I'm saying. Like,
I'm
so
geeking out on
it's-
Game of Thrones,
It's
people.
a downward spiral
My
here.
jam.
And so it just to me it's funny because again it's sins of the family, not sins of the person, which is a great contradiction to the information, the things we have going on in Winterfell, where John basically tells Sansa she wants to give these houses to the families that stuck by him, not the deserters. And John's like, I'm not going to punish people for the sins of their fathers. Where at the same time, everything going on in King's Landing is all because of the sins of your fathers. Because of what Tywin did, that's why Oberyn wants revenge. Oberyn dies, that's why his wife wants revenge, kills Cersei's daughter, and now Cersei's getting her revenge.
Right.
It's just a vicious downward spiral. It's a vicious cycle that's happening. And then you see John, which is, basically, for lack of a better term, raised is Ned Stark's son, raised by, the Starks, he has that kind of just that innate goodness and that moral compass. And Sansa, who's been exposed a little bit to Cersei, is kind of looking at it from the other side, and it's a kind of a little battle between them where everything is just kind of spiraling out of control.
The way they grew up, they
Because,
see things very differently.
Again, like this is what I can see as far as Jon Snow's character development. His father was Ned Stark, so raised by an honorable man. He becomes a steward of Lord Commander Mormont, honorable man. He becomes close with Mance Rayder, the King Beyond the Wall. No matter what you want to say, like Mance Rayder is a good man. It's just all a matter of perspective. They think that he's bad because he was born on the others. Well, actually, no, he was born on our side and made the decision to go over there because he sees how corrupt things are here. So Jon has all these like idealistic people that he looks up to. So again, like when we see Jon Snow's that idealistic type. Like,
and we see that when they're at the dragon pit, when he basically says, I've already bent the knee to one woman, I can't do it. So he's already proven himself to be that loyal guy. And I think even without those people in front of him, like Mance Rayder and his dad and those kind of strong, stable guys, I think that's just his character that he portrays. So I think he's pretty legit. So,
It's awesome.
yeah.
All right.
What else?
So
Anything else
then-
happen? And this is still episode 3,
No,
right?
yeah, let's move on to 4.
Okay,
Yeah.
go for it.
I want to talk about the Littlefinger and Bran and the dagger because that all kind of unfolds on that episode. And then
that was good.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it was kind of nice to hear somebody put Littlefinger in a shaky situation where Bran tells
Speaking
him.
of Bran, Lindsay Pierce on Facebook Live says, I don't like Bran in this season. Granted, he's the one-eyed raven, so he knows things. And that's a great segue into as they're talking, and Littlefinger gives the dagger to Bran, correct?
Yep. Yep.
And
This knife is the knife that caused it all. Blah, blah, blah.
and is that where chaos is a ladder?
There you go. That's where it's dropped.
So I
yeah.
didn't even. I'm going to put this up on the Facebook page as well. Did you get a chance to watch that video that I sent you?
I did.
Okay, we'll talk about it. But basically, somebody did a super cut of Varys and Littlefinger and all this other stuff, and it breaks down when they're talking. He starts saying chaos is a lot, and that kind of like segues into Bran finishing the quote.
Yeah.
And then
Yes.
sometimes I close my eyes. I like to play a little game. All these other
it's great.
things. It's super awesome. It was a great cut. I don't like the music in it, but I'll put that up on the Facebook page a little bit later. But yeah, so Bran gets the knife, the one that was almost used to assassinate him, that quote unquote
Came
belonged to Tyrion.
Tyrion. Yep.
Yeah.
So that's a great scene. What else do you have on your notes
Arya
here?
finally gets to Winterfell. Yay.
Right, and Sansa's still kind of beside herself, and Sansa's been left in charge by Jon as he's gone to meet Daenerys. And to our point that we made before, she's taking a very active role, asking, shouldn't these be boiled, this and that, and she just knows how things should be run. And now here's Arya, who we start getting the idea that, okay, Sansa might not be, her position of power might not last that long.
I'll tell you how cool Game of Thrones is right now.
Go for it.
Season 1, Arya chases cats, ends up outside King's Landing, and has to come back to the front gate to get in. They don't let her in. They give her a hard time. Ned has to end up eventually coming to get her. So in Game of Thrones, so many things are the same, yet they're different. So we get that same scene, except it's
awesome.
her coming home, and they're not letting her in. And she's completely different. She handled it a different way. Because realistically, Arya could kill both of them.
Yeah.
Before, it was like, I'll tell my dad, and,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But still, like, I like that scene. I appreciated that little, and then I appreciated the next generation being inside the crypts and,
Yep.
showing
Yes.
That was
respect
good.
to Ned.
Yes.
Because think of the first episode, we had Robert in there with Ned. You know what I mean?
Yeah, talking about Lyanna. Yeah.
And as far as I'm probably gonna end up taking off early, guys, because
That's okay.
You know
That's
what I
okay.
mean? But I just want to say this, like, big Game of Thrones thing is, I wonder if we're ever gonna see what's under the crypt there, because I'm actually glad we waited to jump into this because of all the mental stuff that the internet is dumping on us, like Bran's the Night King, or any of that stuff.
Yeah.
The one thing that like was big for a little bit is what is underneath the crypts of Winterfell. Like, is it Jon's secret? Obviously, we know it's not Jon's secret because Jon's secret's like basically out now.
Yep.
So could it be what's the name of the sword? What's Arthur Dane's sword's name? Dawn, whatever it is. There's a sword made out of the stars that like was like the best sword ever. Like, would that come into play? Like, there's a lot of things. All the other major houses, like, are their swords going to be collected? Are those going to be, like, used to fight the dead? Is the Iron Throne going to be melted down? Because that's all Valerian steel swords too.
That's interesting.
That is.
I'm sorry for
interesting.
just throwing all this stuff at you guys.
No, that's good. But this is
No,
good.
that's good. Yeah.
This is you dropping the mic.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's
and
it.
peacing out.
I figured I'd drop all that stuff.
Yeah, no, I love it.
I get a long day tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
It's all right, Don.
But
we
you guys
got
rocked
you.
it out.
We got you. Thanks for being here.
Aaron,
Thanks for...
you rocked.
you covered.
It was nice seeing you
Yeah,
again.
geeking out, man.
That's it.
All right. Well, tell Don's out. The People's Geek is out. Say hello to the wife for us, and I know she's watching now. So thank you, Beth, for watching. But Don's on his way home, so we'll he'll be home a little bit later, dude. So yeah. So let's move on to some other points.
One other little point that I liked in episode 4 was the sparring with Brienne and
That was a
Arya.
great
Wasn't
scene.
that awesome?
That was awesome.
That was awesome.
So this is a great, because again, this goes back to what we were talking about Sansa, kind of like watching. Now, what do you think was going through Sansa's mind and Littlefinger's mind as they're watching her?
Oh
So
crap,
basically-
we're in trouble.
Yeah, yeah,
But-
totally.
So, and that's why I think Littlefinger's plan starts hatching.
Correct.
Because he's like, okay, this girl, whatever she's been through, she wants Arya wants to fight the person that took down the Hound.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like, and I want to talk about the Hound real quick, because a few episodes before,
Yeah, we haven't even mentioned.
Yeah, we didn't even mention
he
him at all.
can see the visions in the fire.
Yeah, which that
Yeah,
was.
which is not a
and
which
he's
is
not
an
a believer.
injustice.
And
Yeah,
he's not a believer, so it's like
because
for
he's
him
such
to
an
see that-
amazing character. He's awesome. Awesome.
That's
awesome.
a character arc that has just gone a complete 180
Yes.
from when it started.
Yes.
Very, very, and again, the subtlety is not lost. The fact that his face was burned by fire,
Yeah.
and that's why he's so averse to it.
Correct.
But now we can also kind of see, and that kind of like sparks the Brotherhood Without Banners to do their thing. But going back to the Arya and Brienne of Tarth thing, they're sparring, and Arya's getting the better of her.
Yeah.
Yes.
And she's using needle, and she's like, "Don't worry, I won't hurt you." And in between this, before this even happens, is Bran ends up giving Arya the dagger
Yes.
that
Yes.
Littlefinger had gifted to him.
Yes.
And I was kind of interested.
Bran's like,
so
I'm
it's-
not going to use this.
so it's,
Yeah.
it's no. What good can the cripple use? Because again, he's basically doesn't have the use of his legs. It's like, well, how
Yeah.
can I use this? So it's very interesting in that respect. But yeah, so we see Brienne and Arya fighting, and we get to the part where Brienne actually gets a little PO'd and
Yeah.
boots Arya, and then I don't know if that was actually Maisie Williams or not that did that little twist move.
Yes.
But if it was, props to her. That
Right.
looked phenomenal,
Yep.
and I'm like, okay, this is why Arya is my favorite character.
Oh, I love
and
her.
she's so badass.
Yes.
It's just, and she's just, and then she ends up. Little subterfuge, takes out the knife after losing needle, and they come to a standstill.
Yes,
almost
and
like
they're
a-
both at their throats. And I love when Brienne was like, "Who taught you? Who taught you all that?" And she's like, "No one." Oh,
So good, so good. She's
she's amazing.
so yeah.
Oh, and poor what's his name? The kid.
Podrick?
Podrick. Poor Podrick.
Oh, I know.
I feel so bad for Podrick.
Oh, don't feel bad. Do you remember his storyline? He's fine.
Yeah.
He's-
no.
he's-
Oh,
yeah,
yes, I know. I know where you're
but-
going with this.
But I'm just
Yes,
saying,
yes,
but
yes.
he wants to be.
Yeah, he wants
more,
to- yeah,
and he
exactly.
can't. He just doesn't have it.
He wants to fight. He wants to be not useful, but he wants
He's
to. He wants
learning.
to contribute.
He wants to
He's
be a hero.
learning. He's
Yeah.
totally learning. All right, what do we got next? Let's.
I'm gonna do episode 5, Eastwatch. Gendry is back.
Yes,
Davos comes in.
I love. Okay, so this is one of my favorite episodes. So Davos, goes to. He's been in King's Landing in hiding
Yes.
the entire time, and he's like, "I thought you'd still be rowing." I love that.
I know.
I
That
love
was
that.
awesome.
And let's talk about Tyrion meeting up with Jamie.
Yes.
We're going to talk about that too.
Yes.
Yeah. But first of all, before we get into that, Kimberly Victoria says, "My girl Erin." She says hi. So Facebook Live, thank you. Let those comments keep coming. Okay, so let's talk about Jamie and Tyrion.
Tyrion.
So Tyrion basically meets with Jamie for the reason. We're all blanking.
No, because he wants an audience. He wants to set
wants-
up an audience with Cersei.
Well, yeah, I was kind of feeding.
Yeah,
it to
because
you
I
guys.
was like, oh, you really
I'm the
fucking
host of
tried?
this show, so I start the thought
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I let
This
the
is-
guests and the
And,
co-hosts
Alright.
kind of
and this
expand-
is
expound
for
on
the
it.
plan of taking
Yeah.
we call them what the White Walkers, right? We take one
Correct.
and
So
we
they come
bring
up with a
it to-
plan. Basically, John convinces Daenerys, like, yes, the battle for the throne is important, but this is the more pressing matter.
Right.
And Tyrion says, my sister will never believe it because she thinks they're children's stories. So they decide, we're going to bring a White Walker to her. And that's, they request an audience. So we'll get into that a little bit later, but that's their plan. So they want to get that audience there. Okay, continue. So what else is happening?
So John goes back to Eastwatch, and what the Hound, Tormund, Beric Dondarrion, they're all there, and they're trying to get through. They were trying to get to the wall.
But Gendry leaves with them, right?
Yeah, Gendry leaves
And
with them.
I'm kind of mad. Don had to leave early because I love this. I can't remember the exact phrasing, but Gendry and John meet.
Yep.
And
Yes.
Davos
This was a
tells
great
him,
scene.
Davos tells him,
Great scene.
Don't
don't
tell-
say who. And then he
He's
goes,
like-
a couple things. One, he picks up a hammer,
Hammer, yes.
which is Robert's weapon, which is awesome because he's the bastard son of Robert Baratheon. And then when he finally meets John, just gives no Fs. He's like, no, my name's Gendry. I'm the bastard of. He's like, well, our fathers were best friends, you know.
Yep.
And then if you go back to season 1, when Robert first comes to Winterfell and he looks at Ned and he's like, you've gotten fat, and Ned just looks up and down. He's like, so I forget what the exact terms they use there, the phrasing, but kind of
Yeah.
like the
Taking cheap
parallels.
shots.
Same-
yeah.
Same idea, like, you know, the next generation, as Don mentioned.
Was it
he's
something like, I thought you'd be taller?
I thought you'd be taller,
Yeah.
and I was just
Yeah.
like, I love that because it's just and they both kind of had like a little laugh, a little smirk, and it's like, okay, they're, you know, kind of like a
Both
a
bastards, both
segue
in the
back
same.
to-
Yeah.
but it kind of to their fathers, and I think that's hilarious.
Yeah.
So we also have that scene with Davos. Davos so quick on his feet for being this
love Davos.
uneducated guy with Shireen was teaching him to read and all this stuff. For him to be like, you know, very sly to like trick those guards,
soldiers,
and
yeah.
the soldiers in King's Landing, like, oh yeah, we're oysters and blah blah blah. Like,
Yep.
this will get your stuff going with the girls, and I love that. And then finally, like, it all comes to a head anyway. They're like, when Tyrion shows up and he's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess we got to do our thing anyway. But yeah, what's some of your other notes say for that? Anything else for that episode?
Well, if you want, we can wrap it up with 6 and 7 because
Okay.
obviously those are the.
Well, let's so the party gets together. So it's
Yes.
John and Gendry, Davos, Jorah ends up meeting,
Yes.
you know, and he wants to serve as queen. So it's the 4 of them
Yep.
plus the
pri-
Hound.
yes.
What's the priest is?
What's the other guy's name?
Beric Dondarrion.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's there.
And
Tormund's
Tormund,
with them.
and who not doesn't love Tormund?
I know. I love
Him-
the
him-
conversation.
At this point, did Tarly leave the
Citadel.
Citadel? Or is that the next episode? I think it's the next episode.
Might have.
He does well during one of these episodes.
Well, 5. I think it's 5. Sam and Gilly find out about the annulment for
Yeah,
Rhaegar.
so Gilly starts
Although
reading.
Sam's not really paying that much attention.
Attention, right? 'cause
But
Gilly's-
Gilly mentions, and this is very important to the story, that. I'm trying to lead you.
Oh, you're trying
Yeah.
to leave
I'm
me.
trying to leave-
Sorry. Yeah, I'm
yeah.
having
Sorry.
a moment.
So what happened?
So basically, as they're doing research at the Citadel, Gilly is reading, and she's reading out loud that there was a secret. There was an annulment, and then Rhaegar had married. Leanne is her name?
Lyanna?
Lyanna.
Yeah, in a secret ceremony. And dun 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 dun.
So come to
Jon
find out
Snow
that
is
John
not a
is actually not a
bastard.
bastard, and we'll get to that a little bit later. And I wanted to talk to Don, but this kind of I saw a shirt that I wanted to purchase, but it says a dragon raised by wolves,
Oh, nice.
and it's so perfect for Jon Snow.
Definitely.
Or is that his name anymore? I won't get to that in a we episodes.
I don't know. I think it's kind of
Are we gonna-
difficult to call him
Anything else but Jon
Aegon
Snow?
Targaryen, or
Yeah.
I don't even
so
know. Like, what would you?
We're gonna okay. So basically, this motley crew
Nice.
leaves
They are a
beyond the
motley
They
crew.
are.
wall
Yeah.
They are.
to capture a White
White Walker. Yes, and that's how that.
So let's
episode
move to the
ends.
next episode then.
Stressful. That's like the only thing I can say about that. Episode 6 was just stressful.
So it was
Yes, it
stress
was.
It
inducing.
was. It was. I think I might have sat and rocked the entire time, like, oh God, they're not going to make it.
So
They're not going to make
let's
it.
let's start with Beyond.
Beyond the Wall.
Yeah.
Oh, let's not even get into that. Let's talk about. Wasn't there a battle beforehand? in one-
Spoilers of War.
Yeah. What, is that episode or is
Oh,
that?
wait a minute. I think we went past that. I think that was episode
definitely
5.
did. We
I think that was
definitely did.
episode 5.
Because
yeah, we
that's
missed that.
what happened with Jamie now.
Yes. Because he was
With-
running. I
with
can't
the,
believe we missed that.
Yeah, there was a
Or
huge
4.
battle.
4 or 5.
4. I think it was
4.
4.
I think it was 4.
There was a huge battle,
Mm-hmm.
and what happened?
Right. So this was Jamie and the Lannister army coming from, was it Tyrell, right? The House of
The-
Highgarden.
the-
High
yep.
Garden.
All right. So they were coming back with all the food supply. They were coming back with gold, and the main
Reaping their rewards.
Yes, exactly. And then who comes blazing on her dragon? Danny.
And the Dothraki.
Yes.
And they
Beastly.
start kicking butt.
They start kicking butt. So, like a good leader would, Jamie I don't know who he tells to
He
go
tells
get the
Bronn.
gold. Yep, he wants the gold to get to Cersei because that's how she's going to pay the Iron
Right.
Bank. So that is first and foremost top of the list. And then they just stop fighting, and yeah, she's just kicking butt.
Bronn makes his way to the crossbow.
Oh, to the crossbow. Yes.
The giant
yes.
crossbow that we
This is,
saw
where
a
you
few
get,
episodes.
this is where you get a little scared
Yep.
for the dragons.
and you
Yes.
see Daenerys riding one of the is it Drogon?
Drogo, I think.
Drogon?
Yeah, it was Drogon.
Yeah.
And they fire. The first shot misses, and I was
Misses,
like,
yeah.
oh.
Thank God. Yeah. I
Second
know.
shot clips him in the wing.
Yes.
It lands on the ground.
Yep.
And she's trying to take the bolt, the spear out. And Tyrion, who's overseeing the battle.
Yes.
And this is one of my favorite scenes because Jaime sees Daenerys off in the distance, and then
Yep.
he sees a spear stuck in the ground.
Yep.
And he's thinking about it, and you see him pondering. And then
He's like,
Tyrion,
you,
I'm gonna clean the language up a little
Yeah.
bit, but
Yes,
he goes,
yes.
"Get the f out of
Yeah.
there," basically.
Yep.
don't
Yep.
be. He said something. He said
Don't-
something like,
don't
"Don't
be
be
a-
an idiot."
Yeah, don't
Yeah.
be an idiot.
Effing
Yep.
idiot.
Yep.
Yep. He's like, leave. And
he's
then,
like,
of course,
"Ugh,
Jaime
you're an idiot."
with his morals and his kind of like, he's like, listen,
His valor.
his valor. I have to do this for my queen. He picks up and he starts charging, and I thought Jaime was done for there because as soon as he looks like he's about to spear her, Drogon's head comes in, and you go to Tyrion. He's like, "You effing idiot!" And he thinks his brother's gonna die, and then Bronn
comes
jumps
in.
in and saves him.
Yes.
And that's how the episode ends.
Bronn's the man.
He is.
Bronn is awesome. Bronn
is
is awesome.
awesome.
But that's the interesting thing about this is like, technically, these are the bad guys we're cheering.
And
for.
we didn't
I
even talk
know.
about the meeting with Cersei. We totally
Oh,
missed
that's
that.
right.
Go for it.
So and
There's just so
unfortunately
much.
we're backtracking because there's so
No,
there's so
there's
much.
just so
But this
much.
is
There's
important,
so
but it's
much.
important. So we get to the scene where they decide to meet. So, actually no, was that or is
Dragon
that after
Pit.
this?
Was
no,
that the
because they
dra-
have to get the walkers. They have to.
Yeah,
no, it is.
that
It's
was
after this.
Yeah, it was after this. The
It is
dragon.
after-
It was
know
after
what
the
you-
dragon
I
pit.
can't be in your head, so I
Yep,
can't.
it is after this. So
Yeah.
let's
Okay.
keep going.
Okay.
I was just.
So
No, that's
this
okay.
leads
Yeah.
to Dany, the Dothraki, winning this battle.
Yes.
Jaime ends up escaping, and we have a couple of people she needs to make an example of.
Yes,
Yes.
Rickon and I forgot Sam's dad's Randall. Is that
Well,
right?
there's
Dickon.
Dickon.
Rickon. I did that on purpose because Jamie kept calling him Rickon when he met him. There was a fun. It's not funny, but it is funny. There was like a little meme that had Theon and.
Yep.
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 You already know
I
I'm going
can
with,
already
right?
draw the
You already know
parallels.
I'm going with
Her
that. The
name was
parallel on that.
Dickon.
Okay. Okay.
But so Tyrion's kind of like pleading, like, let's do something with, like, don't.
Yes, let's not go straight to lighting them up like a Christmas tree. You know,
Yeah,
let's let them
don't be a leader. If you're looking
Yep.
to be a queen, you don't want to be ruled by fear because that's what everyone else is doing.
Right.
And she does not heed his advice, and her dragons pretty much take care of them.
Yep.
So that's how we end up with that scene. Now I'm assuming, so that's kind of creating a little bit of a conflict in ideology between
Tyrion
and Daenerys, and that'll be a little bit. We'll kind of come back.
It's
to
important
that
at the
one
end.
because she actually asked John his advice a little bit later. But what else is going on in that episode, Aaron? What else do you have marked
For
on that?
which one do you want to talk about? 6?
Yeah, let's go to 6.
Do you want to do 6? So basically, most of that entire episode with. Besides the part where the Littlefinger and the letter and Sansa
Okay,
and
so
that.
let's talk about that. Then we'll get
there.
that. So
Okay.
basically, Littlefinger basically is talking with Sansa, and it's the only copy they have. Now, Sansa's at this point a little bit paranoid about what Arya, like all her new skill set and what like all the stuff she can do. She realizes this list is an actual thing, and you know,
Bran confirms it for her too as
right.
well.
So it's one of those things where it's not just Arya, you know. It's something she can't just write off. It's like something like, okay, this is heavy. This could affect my role as the leader here in Winterfell, as the Lady of Winterfell. There's a scene with Littlefinger, and Arya's following him around, and he basically tells Sansa this is the only copy that's still around. And Arya ends up sneaking into, I believe it's Sansa's room, and ends up finding it, I believe. And the whole thing is Littlefinger's actually been tailing her because he knows something is up.
Correct.
And we don't see exactly what it is now, but people that have used freeze frame or pause the video. It's basically her urging Rob
to
bend the knee to Cersei and
Yes.
you know, all this stuff, which he did under duress. But you'll hear all the reasons in the next episode, which we'll talk about. So we're going to put a pin in that,
Sure.
and then come back to that.
We got a lot of pins.
We do.
We do. I haven't even kept track of all of them, to be
Well,
honest
that's
with
okay.
you.
We'll pull all those pins out
I
in
hope
episode
your
7.
memory is good because
But
mine's not so good.
So the crux, the main plot of this episode is this
Beyond
ragtag bunch of crew going past the wall and trying to attempt to capture a White Walker. Please continue. What happens?
All right. So, well, I'm really going to explain this whole entire thing. I can't.
Well, just to give a synopsis.
all
Or
right.
KB, jump in. I don't
Yeah,
care.
come on,
So-
KB, help me out.
Okay, so they're beyond the wall, our ragtag adventurers, right?
Yep.
So they, if I remember correctly, they run into some problems,
Yep.
so to speak, with some of the White Walkers.
Right.
I forget some of the details leading up to it.
Basically, they kill a
Yeah,
little
they
little
kill a
like
little one.
almost like a hunting party, like a
Yep.
Yeah, they killed the main leader of
And
the
then we
pack.
see all
and
the
then-
others.
We see
Except for one.
Right.
So I have a feeling that the Night King.
So it's but we're led to believe that those, you know, certain one, like the main ones, if you will, that can be shattered
like
by
the little
dragon
leaders
glass.
of each group
Yes.
are
Control.
connected
Can
to the
control. Yeah, definitely.
like
Or when they
satellites of
die-
the Night King.
Right.
Yep.
yes.
So
They're
they eventually
fueling
get
their
overwhelmed
energy.
by a bigger party,
Yep.
and they're surrounded. And this is where some people have issues with it
Yeah.
because they send Gendry out to run,
Yes.
and he ends up passing out just
Yep.
basically right in front
Right, yeah.
Sure.
of the wall, and they bring him in. They send a raven out to Daenerys.
Yes.
And between all this time, they're still all surrounded, and then the Hound, being the Hound,
Yes.
throws a
Love
rock.
him.
Makes them realize that the
and then
ice
they-
is not that.
Right. And then they also
Yeah.
start marching forward. And then, you know, just when it looks like they're going to lose, the dragons. So a lot of people have problems because Daenerys shows up and
Because it's
and-
literally only like a day, it seems like.
right.
Because there's an overnight, there's an overnight because they wake
but
up in the morning.
It could have been. It could have
But-
been a week. We don't know. You know what I mean? You have to kind of suspend your disbelief a little bit there and saying it doesn't happen. Like this didn't happen right away. It didn't.
They sent that Raven FedEx.
Because I believe Sansa even mentioned that when she receives a note from Jon, she's like, Jon's been gone for weeks. So even though it's like these episodes, you know,
Are
it
moving
could have been 6 weeks since, you know, he's left, and so we don't know how time is moving there.
Right.
So anyway, just when all hope looks lost, boom. But then we have the Night King,
Ugh.
Yep.
who ends up taking a spear
Yes.
and pierces,
Viserion. And
and
kills him.
crashes, blood spilling out, and it breaks through the ice and sinks. And Daenerys is heartbroken,
Mortified.
Of course.
mortified. And they're all loading up on Drogon to get out of there. They have their White Walker that they want to take
Yes.
back to prove that this threat exists.
And the other dragon's now probably kind of lost.
Right, and the the
Right.
other dragon's flying around too.
Yeah.
But John, rather than escaping
on
with
them.
them, Mr. Morals and Valor, as we
The
mentioned before, is like,
hero.
Yep.
I'm gonna keep fighting, and
That's
like he's getting another spear, and that's when John realizes, okay, time to go. But then he gets tackled through.
Correct.
And you know,
Falls
on
you
ice.
think he's a goner too. They build
Yeah.
up the suspense, and then Long Claw's sitting on the ice, and you see John come up and reach for it and
Yeah.
pull himself out. And
Uncle Benjen shows
Uncle
up.
Benjen
Oh, I
shows
love
up and
it.
saves
Yeah.
him. And now is Benjen done for? Is that
I
Benjen
know,
sacrificing himself?
I needed more
We're seeing the
Benjen.
death of a lot of characters. You know what I mean? Like they're just rapid fire killing
Yep.
off not the main characters, but a lot of these
Side
these
characters.
supporting secondary
Taking the
characters.
story down a bit
Yes.
in a way by ending some of these storylines.
I want to give a quick shout out to Paul on Facebook Live because he's giving you props. He's saying, Aaron, you've done a great. You've held your own. Nice to see a woman on. I absolutely
Yep.
agree, and that's why
I
I
agree
wanted
here,
her
too.
on. We're trying to get more women because we don't think all geeks should be dudes. The geeks should be it's
Yeah.
equality geekery here.
That's it.
No, please keep up. So, anything else from that episode that you want to touch on?
Oh, but this was the meeting this episode or a 7?
No, that's 7.
The meeting is
Yeah,
7. Okay.
the Dragon Pit. I needed to give a shout out to Tormund because we got to talk about the conversation between him and the Hound, how comical,
God.
or even with
Yeah.
Gendry when he's like, how do you guys stay warm? And he's like, well, and you know, he gives this little plug, but when he talks about Brienne, he's like, I'm gonna make giant babies with her. Like, I mean, it's just so funny.
Got giant blood in her.
Well, that's the thing.
It's great.
Both him and the Hound, who have had very different experiences with Brienne of Tarth, but both respect her in
Yeah.
different. You know what I mean? They both
Yes.
respect her. The Hound, and basically just to me, it's like they start broing out. I'd love to see almost we know Game of Thrones is ending and they're doing some spin-offs.
Right.
I would see a spin-off with the Hound and Tormund being buddies, like just on adventures through Westeros. That would be
That'd
fantastic.
be awesome.
Like almost like a buddy cop type of show, but it's set in the realm of Westeros. So we move on to the last episode, and there's a lot to digest in this episode.
There is, and it's putting a lot of pieces that we already kind of knew. Because I think going into the whole Beyond the Wall, I think people probably knew that even if Cersei did see a White Walker, we know her character, we know what she is. She doesn't care because her only true vision is that throne. She does not care about anything else.
This is what Dad worked for.
Yeah, it's like, so I already knew going into. I'm like, it's kind of sad because all of the energy and now we lost a dragon. Now the Night King's got a dragon, and I mean, was it a waste? No, because it's part of the storyline. But it's a little hurtful because we know how she is, and they presented her a White Walker, and because Jon already bent the knee, that's it. She put her hands up. So because she doesn't really care, she doesn't really.
I love that scene though. I love that whole setting when the nothing happens out of the box. I'm like, oh, is the White Walker?
Oh, I know.
done?
I was like, what happened?
And then the Hound kicks over, and the thing like scrambles.
Yes.
Her
face.
Goes right up to her.
face between and it just, to me, it's like the acting on the show obviously is phenomenal, but the fact that just her reaction was so perfect. And then she basically realizes, she says, okay, you know what, we're not gonna. And then let's talk about Euron a little bit, kind of like goading Theon. And we didn't even talk about this in one of the episodes. Theon
And Jon Snow, the conversation
and Jon
they
Snow
have.
a little
Yes,
conversation.
they do. I know, there's
and
just so
when
much
they
to
first,
cover.
They first meet up, Jon basically says, "For what you did for Sansa, that's the only reason I'm not killing you right now."
Yep.
And basically, as they kind of are all in this council, Euron's kind of goading Theon. He's like, "I have your sister.
Yeah.
I'm gonna kill her." And it's just
Yeah.
Tyrion's like, "Can we talk about things that are
Yeah.
more
Yeah,
important?"
yeah.
Which
The matter
it's
at
it's
hand.
kind of like, oh, life's at stake. He's threatened about killing, but there's something more important, and you kind of get it. I just love that entire scene. I love the acting in that whole scene. And Euron basically is like, "Can these things swim?" And they're like, "No." So he's like, "You know what? I'm going back. I'm done. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not part of this anymore."
Yeah.
And
But
that'll come back to play a little bit later.
that will, because I think we all know where he is headed.
Right.
for anyway.
Okay, so let's get to the next part of that. So basically, we see Theon, and as we're seeing with this, we see this is my favorite like storyline of the whole thing. I know some people had a problem with it. We go back to Winterfell,
Yes.
and Littlefinger again is in Sansa's ear. Like, why is your sister here? When I'm trying to think of the motives of somebody, I play a little game. What's the worst case scenario? What could she want? And then Sansa and Arya are fighting because the note is saying, again, oh, well, Arya knows about this note. She's going to get everybody that's supporting me as Lady of Winterfell to turn against me. So when she kills me, she can become Lady of Winterfell.
Which she has really no interest in.
Right,
Exactly.
right.
We've known Arya's characteristics. She doesn't care.
No, and Sansa
She
should have
never
known
did.
that. No,
Well,
Sansa
no,
should
and
have
I
known
think
that when they were kids.
but I think she does, and I
Yeah.
think that's the
Yeah.
game that she's playing.
Right.
So Littlefinger, is like saying we need to take care of this, and
Mm-hmm.
that. So they set that stage. Then we cut back to Theon talking with Jon.
Yes.
And basically saying, and again showing Jon's character. I can't forgive you for everything you did, but what I can forgive you for, I
Yes.
do. And he's like, my sister needs me. He's like, then why are you still talking to me?
Yeah, that was a nice.
It's just like, and to Don's point, like, and again, Don, if you're watching this later, if you're in there here now, again, they were talking peaks and valleys. Like, I really liked Theon. Like, he was one of my favorite characters
At the beginning.
until everything happened, and then he basically wanted to kind of like prove to his father, and he hung those, he burned those two little farmer boys or whatever. And I'm just like, this guy's a dick. And then shit. No, I'm gonna say whatever.
okay.
We're MA.
What
Stuff happened. Stuff
I was telling
happened.
myself
say,
not to swear.
what,
and, hey, the
go
host
for it.
just
what
did it, so I guess
hasn't
that's a free pass.
what hasn't Theon gone through at this point?
Theon's gone through a lot of stuff.
And he always struggled anyway, because even when he wrote the letter to Rob,
Yeah.
and then he burned it.
Yep.
To,
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, he just- he
Theon's a
struggled.
very
He did.
complex
Mentally, he
character. But
struggled,
now
poor
we're seeing
guy.
him back, and we see him getting in a fight with the other, leader
Yes.
of the
Yeah, the
Greyjoys. No, we're not
Greyjoys,
going to
yes.
do that. They get into a fight, and then the dude tries to knee him in
him
the
in
nether
his-
regions, and
yep.
guess what? There's nothing there.
Yeah.
So
And he
Theon
comes
gets-
back, and he
right.
gets their respect, and he beats the
Yep.
guy up, and he's going for his sister, which is awesome.
which is great. So that kind of ends his story for this season.
Yep.
Then we cut back to, so we have another meeting. So after Cersei's like, you've already bent the knee to Daenerys, then this is off.
Yep.
We're not going to help you.
Correct.
You're like,
Tyrion
John,
goes
you're
to
so
talk
bad
to
at
her.
this.
Yeah. yeah.
Tyrion is a great guy because he even talks to Jon, and I love this scene too.
Yeah.
He goes, "Would it even occur to you to just lie a little bit once in a while?" And then Jon's like, "Too many people lie.
And then your
Yeah.
word becomes
Your
nothing.
word becomes nothing." And
Yes.
it's just like it still shows his moral compass
That he got from the Starks.
isn't moving.
Yeah.
It's steadfast. And to me, that is such a great scene because it's like Jon's not going to compromise who he is.
His
Yep.
He's
integrity
not going to
now.
compromise his integrity. That's a great way to say it.
No.
So let's.
So now Tyrion's going to try to save the day here.
Here we go.
With-
Yep.
Yeah. So Tyrion starts talking with Cersei, and she blames him for the death of her children, which you could kind of, he's the one that brought Marcella over
Yep.
to
Yeah.
to
Dorne.
Dorne and that
Yep.
whole thing, and all his machinations got certain some of her children
Their
killed. And she
father,
blames
yeah,
him. Yep.
she blames.
Yeah, and which she's not wrong to do.
No.
But again, bigger picture, he's like, listen, this is what.
This is bigger
and
than
then
all that.
when she's talking.
And she.
Tyrion just being, again, I drink and I know things. He figures out that she's pregnant.
Correct. And then it cuts. So you don't even know the
So we
rest
don't
of the
know.
conversation.
And we're going to talk about theories at the end of this conversation here. Because you and I have talked about this. I don't think I've talked about it with you.
Yep.
So we cut back to Winterfell. And my favorite scene of episode 7 and almost maybe the entire series, Littlefinger is just all smug sitting
Yep,
up against
yep,
the wall. They bring
yep.
Arya in. And she's like
Like she's getting punished
she goes,
or executed.
Do you really want
Yeah.
to do this? And Sansa's like, I don't want to, but it's what honor demands. And she's like, all right, let's get on with it then. And you think she's gonna
She's talking about art.
bring the hammer down? She's like, you've been accused of murder, you've been accused of treason. How do you answer for these crimes? And then she turns and looks over and she
Yep.
goes, Lord Baelish.
Oh.
And it was so good. It was and his. I love my favorite
To
part.
finally
of that
get
scene,
caught.
Yes.
But not
To
even that.
finally.
Yes.
Not even that, but if you
Agreed.
watch that scene again,
Yeah.
watch the amount of time. And this is to me, it's like you for the last few episodes, you've been like they've kind of like
Plowed
told you
through some things, yeah.
they've been building up that Sansa is paranoid over Arya,
Right.
and she thinks something like
Yeah.
something's going to happen.
Well,
with
even
you.
when Sansa finds the faces and she's
Yeah.
like, "What is this?
Right.
And
Yeah.
what are you into?" And she's like, "Oh, you like pretty little dresses. And what if I cut your face and
Right.
weigh
Yeah.
your face?" So you start to think like
They build
maybe
the
Arya's
tension.
like flown off the deep end. You
Right.
know what I mean? And she's
or maybe she blames Sansa for some of this
for
stuff.
some of the things. So it's just because you want to.
It's like, is she on the list?
Yeah. Like what is
But when
happening
she
right now?
turns to Peter, to Peter Baelish, there's at least a good 10 seconds of utter silence when everybody's reacting, everybody's looking at him. And then my favorite part, because they brought up all this this possible dissension between the two sisters, Arya turns to him and she goes, with a little smug look on her
Yes.
face, she goes, my sister asked you a question. And I was like, that is fantastic.
Yeah, they did
And
a
the funny
nice
thing is,
job
they
with
kind
that.
of recapped almost all of the
Well,
stuff that
and
he
that's,
did.
so that's what he says. He
which was
goes,
Yeah.
interesting.
I'm a bit confused.
Treason
And then,
and- yep.
but this is the thing I love too, is go back and watch that scene. Watch Sansa. Watch how much she's grown as a character from this, kind of
Timid.
like this almost like timid,
Yeah.
frail little. I want to be I
Princess.
want to
Yeah.
be the betrothed to my beloved Joffrey, and she
I
just
want to
wants
be,
to be this
I
lady.
want to be the queen. Yeah.
When he goes, Laura, he goes, Lady Sansa, I'm quite confused. She goes, and just the look on her face. What charges confuse you? Let's recap. And I'm just like, oh my god,
she's
this girl
grown
is
so
awesome.
much. Yeah, as a character.
And it's one of those
Then she
things.
finishes
where,
with his line.
well, we'll get there because she talks
Yes.
about pushing her aunt through the moonroof.
Yes.
John Aaron being murdered and all this stuff that he has done, and we know as a viewer he has done, but none of the other characters do. And then she basically boils down you convinced Cersei Lannister and Joffrey collusion to accuse my father of treason, like everything that happened. John Aaron, the thing you did to John
You're like,
Aaron
how did you
first
know all this?
started the war between the Starks and the Lannisters. All this animosity, all this hatred was because of what you did. All the things that have happened since episode 1 of season 1 is Littlefinger's fault.
Like Don said in one of our previous episodes, it all starts with Littlefinger.
Right.
Yep.
If Littlefinger doesn't move on Ned Stark, none of this happens.
Well,
it.
even before that, if
But
he
even
doesn't,
before
if he
that.
doesn't,
But that's the thing that really kicks
well,
everything
no,
off.
he not even that, because Ned Stark gets asked to be the hand of the king after later, John Aaron is murdered by
Yeah.
Littlefinger
That's
because
right.
he's doing everything for himself to
Oh,
sit
yeah.
in
That's
the
right,
Iron
that's
Throne.
right.
So all of that happens, which then Robert asks Ned to be his hand,
hand,
and then
yep.
all that happens, which Ned doesn't want to do, but he has to for his friend. All
Yeah.
of that stuff, and then Littlefinger betrays him. But they're going through all this stuff, and Bran is sitting in the background. And anyone that
'cause
knows
Bran
Bran
knows,
being the
yeah.
three-eyed raven,
Yeah.
you know,
There's
'cause
no
gotta
expression. There's no
embrace him.
anything.
as soon
yeah.
as Littlefinger said, and she goes, because of you, our father was. And there's little subtleties too that I don't know if you guys picked on, and I'll mention it here. But when he goes, oh, you betrayed our father, and it's him that because of what you did, he was executed, and he goes, I deny it. None of you were there. And then Bran, like to your point,
Yep.
KB says, you held a knife to his throat, and you did say, I did warn you not to trust me.
Yep.
And then Littlefinger turns. When he turns and he looks at him,
Yeah.
it's just like, I did warn you not to trust me. That's, again, is that a hint back to when Littlefinger gave him the dagger and said, and then
Chaos.
Bran said, chaos is a ladder. Like,
Yeah.
he had to know, like, hey, something's
it.
going on with Bran here.
Yeah.
Right.
Whether or not you know exactly what happened to him, you're repeating something that you said to, and, maybe you don't realize it, but you told Varys.
Yeah.
Bran is repeating your words to you. And when he says that none of you were there, and he goes, you held a knife to his throat, and you said, I did warn you not to trust me, which is great. And then this is the subtle part. I don't know if you noticed on. So he turns back, and Arya starts talking. Because you also lied about this knife. You said it belonged to Tyrion
Yep.
Lannister. He looks back at Bran. Did you guys
Yep.
notice that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Bran, it was used. He's like, okay, this was supposed to assassinate you. Like this knife was supposed to be used to
Yep.
assassinate you. And just to me, all of that is so good. Then you can kind of see the wheels turning in his head. And again, a great acting job by the actor that plays Littlefinger. He's like, what do I have left? And he goes up to Sansa.
He's looking through
He's
his
looking
head
for,
to
he's looking
figure
for an
out
out. And
his
this is
way out.
this is one of the little things I have an issue with the writing. Why didn't he ask for a trial by combat? Because he knows how good. And then pick Arya.
Wasn't it banned?
Was it?
Sir, remember it got banned when Cersei
Yeah,
wanted to do
I
it?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so perfect. There you go. See, I didn't notice. See, KB
Yep.
with the infield
that's
double
when
right
Cersei
there.
had the mountain
An
and
RBI
then
right
they,
there.
Yeah.
Okay, so point being, he goes up to Sansa and he basically says, let me defend myself. I deserve that. Stoneface.
Yep.
So then he goes, if we can talk in private.
Yeah.
And that's when she comes back. She brings us sometimes when I'm trying to get the motivation, and then she realizes this is what you've been doing this whole time.
It was a great wrap up.
And then he goes, to ask. He's like, I'm Lord Commander of the Vale. I dare, no,
No, you're not
gonna do
anymore.
that.
no.
I think not.
Denied.
So he drops to it. He's got nothing left. So
That's
now
it.
he's begging
And he's groveling.
and he's groveling, and he brings out, and this to me, because I've seen a lot of like comments and reactions where people are like, oh my God, he loves Sansa. That's so gross. I'm like, Jorah loves Daenerys. All these
Yeah.
other characters love people much younger than them. I don't have a problem with it because the and he hits it in the last couple things he says. He goes, I loved your mother.
Yeah.
And he sees so much of Catelyn
Yeah.
in
In
Sansa. That's
yeah.
why he's in love with her, because he could never have Catelyn because of her ethics and morals,
Yep.
and she was married to Ned, and he's loved her since he was a boy, and he could never have her, and everything he did was to try to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he even said it when he murdered Lyssa. He said, I've only loved one Tully,
Oh, that's
Yep.
right. That's right.
and
that's right.
it was your sister because she was in love
Yeah.
with him, and he pushed her through the moon rift. But the whole thing was he was in love with Catelyn. He's like, I loved
Yeah.
your mother, and she goes, and Sansa again, stone cold. Yet you betrayed her, and then he goes, I loved you more than anyone. But again, he put her in the Bolton camp. He sold
Oh,
her the
yeah.
Boltons. He
I
did all
mean,
this
that's-
stuff.
yeah.
So he did it all for her game. Yeah, maybe he loved her. Maybe he loved the idea of her because she
Well, they had
reminded
that
him.
conversation. Remember? He
Yeah.
Oh,
he
that's
told her
right.
that.
Yeah.
He said, I have the idea or the dream or what was it? The vision of us sitting on the Iron Throne.
With you by my
side.
side.
Yes, yes.
But that's the game he was playing. But he still said he loved her again because he said something about her being even more beautiful than Catelyn ever was. So it's almost like when you have a crush on somebody when you're younger, and to see somebody else that resembles that, like those feelings are still going to be there for like, any of the. I can understand. I don't say I agree.
I don't
with
have
it,
a
but
problem with any of that kind of stuff because it's kind of the nature of the show.
Right, yeah. And I just don't like Littlefinger because he's a weasel. So
Yeah.
But
that's the only reason why I
And
don't.
he finally, so he's,
Yeah.
so he goes, I loved your mother. She goes, yet you betrayed
Betrayed
her.
me, yeah.
I loved you more than anyone. Yet you betrayed me.
Yes.
And she goes, and then I love just like the little diatribe she went. She goes, I'm a slow learner. It's true, but I do learn. And she's finally coming to all of her own.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And she goes, thank you for all your lessons, Lord Baelish. I'll never forget them. As this has happened, Arya's walking over, and it's just like such a great scene. She takes out the knife.
Yep.
That little finger gave to Bran, which then
Yes.
Bran, again, being the three-eyed raven, knew, hey, you know what? You're going to need this more than I. Slices his throat, holsters it, and walks right back with without a beat, like no big deal. Like,
Nope.
Yep.
and she just sits there again, stone faced, and then he falls to his death. What else happens? We cut back to King's Landing,
Yes.
and Jaime is talking with Cersei, and she goes.
This is after she.
After she reneged on her deal, after she talked with Tyrion,
She
she
did,
comes
but then
back
she
and she
comes
does
back
say,
and she
"I will."
tells everybody,
She goes,
"We're
"I will
gonna
not.
do it."
I will not keep my soldiers here. They'll march with you. Just remember that I could have done anything, and I'm working with you."
Right, and
So-
then once this is.
Once all the dust settles there, and okay, she's
Yes.
on board, she lets loose her real plan. She
Yep.
goes, "Do you really think that you're on
Correct.
sailed back?" No, he's going across, and he's going to pick up. I forgot what the name of the
Golden. Is it the Golden Arm?
the
No,
golden
the
armor.
mercs.
Yeah,
The
but basically
mercs.
she's gonna use the money from the Iron
Iron
Bank,
Bank.
and
Yep.
to get these mercenaries to come in
Right.
and win the war. She has no. And
No.
I love Jaime's
Yeah.
whole thing, because once he finds out, before she even reveals that, he's like, you're going to betray them. So either the dead win and then they march south and they kill us all,
Yep.
or the people in the north win, they get pissed off that you betrayed us, they come back and they kill us all.
anyway. Not
he's-
a good deal either way.
So basically, then he gets mad that she's kind of conspired with Euron behind his back.
Yep.
And then she throws in the fact that he conspired with Tyrion behind her back.
Correct.
And
Which
that
is
would be
also
treason.
true.
Which is very true.
Which is
Again,
true.
you can see both their points. But as he goes, he's like, I gave them my word. So again, Jaime, from his point, again, battling back and forth.
He's another character that
Has
just through
grown.
the course of the show has just done a 180, actually not even a 180, back and forth.
I want to put a real quick pin on this because on Facebook Live, Faith just joined. Faith, thank you very much for my picture. I truly do appreciate it. Your dad showed it to me, and I absolutely love it. So thank you.
He's gonna frame it.
I'm going to frame it. And as Kevin wants me to put it on my desk, I think that might send the wrong message to the people I work with, but I will frame it and hang it
We
in
should
my
have
apartment.
just signed it, Love Dazzler.
But no, I appreciate it. So I'm sorry. I just wanted to put that quick
She
in
is
while
a
she was
true
still there.
artiste. That's
It looks
in 10
phenomenal.
minutes?
I love
Yeah,
it. I
10,
love it.
15
That-
minutes, something
oh
like
my
that.
God.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to Cersei.
I would need like weeks to draw something like that, and then I would probably need like that a translucent
my
paper.
wife was saying
so
like
I can...
my wife was saying like the face she got perfect.
yeah,
Oh
no,
my
it's
God,
great.
yeah.
It's great. Very talented. Very talented. You're a great artist.
We'll post it to the.
Yeah, well, I'll take a
The
picture of it and we'll
page.
put it on the
Definitely.
page. But yeah, KB, finish your thought about Cersei and Jaime and how Jaime's a very interesting character.
Yeah, just Jaime has gone from, there's just so many moments where you just see the softness of him. You almost feel for this guy who's trapped in some mess, and that mess is Cersei.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Agreed.
It's like and now you can also justify him killing the Mad King.
Well, that's the thing. He's a very honorable
so
person. He
it's-
but he's in love with somebody who's
Yeah.
poisonous.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's this trifling woman. Not that I want to, not all of them, but she's
Oh,
very.
she is.
Ellen.
I think almost every woman would agree with you.
She's
She
a
is.
very poisonous.
She is poison.
woman, and it's very interesting to see. But he basically says, once he finds out her plan, he's like, I gave them my word. I'm going
Correct.
north,
Yeah.
and then the mountain steps in the way.
I know. I really thought for a split.
Yeah, I thought he was
second-
kinda done
I
there.
did. I really
I
did.
thought he was done
I
there.
did.
Both of them. He's like, are you really going to do this? Are you going to have me killed? And she's stone faced. This is the man. This
But
is the
she
woman that.
motion. She makes a motion with her head.
Well,
like,
well, hold on. Yeah, we'll get that. But he basically this is the woman that he loves more than
Right.
life itself, and he thinks is in love with him because they've had a conversation. He also knows she's pregnant,
Correct.
and basically is going to say like, who are you going to say is the father? And she's like, I'm going to say it's you. I don't care. And that
Yep.
kind of reaffirms like,
Her
okay,
love for him.
yeah. But then she basically nods to the mountain.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my god,
I'm like, he is not
she is
allowed to-
really like she's power hungry.
Yeah, she is.
And
And she
anything
really
to protect
wants-
that baby.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. He goes like, I'm the only one you have left. She goes, there's another.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't. And the look on his face, another great acting moment. He's like, I don't believe you. And he walks right by with no repercussions.
Yeah.
And then as he's leaving, he starts seeing snowfall.
Yes.
And then we cut back to Winterfell.
Yes.
And then
So
they
I think
have.
it's like it's registering
Yeah.
that this isn't really.
I think that's when he realizes, like, listen,
this isn't a game.
this isn't a game. She doesn't love me. There's
Yes.
more important things.
Yeah.
They cut back to the two sisters, and they kind of, and I love this scene too because Arya says something like, "I wouldn't have been able to survive everything you've been through."
Yes.
And then
They kind of reaffirm
Yeah.
each other,
right,
like
and
each
then,
other's
and then
stories.
Sansa
that
says, "Yes, you are. You're the strongest person I know." And then Arya's like, well, I believe that's the nicest thing you've ever said to me. And then Sansa being total sense, like almost like
Don't
kind of
get used to it.
But no, but going back to season 1 where they have that kind of
Yep.
like combative, she's like, don't get used to it. You're still very strange, and I forget what she says, but it's just like weird.
Sisters
and strange.
bantering
But
with
it's-
each
Yeah,
other.
But it's just
yeah.
like it's Sansa's
It's
feelings to
sisterly.
her. Like,
They're going back to their
but
roots.
even when
Yeah.
when they were children, and Sansa was always worried about like sewing and creating
Yeah.
garments, and Arya had no.
No,
like,
she wanted
Sansa
to.
thought she was
wanted
strange
to throw
and weird back
arrows
then.
and
She's
fight
a
with
little
the
girl
rest of
that was
them.
playing with Matchbox cars.
That's
like,
it. That's it.
But I just think it's a great callback to that as well. And then they say they start talking about their father and how much they miss him. And they I forgot the quote.
Is it leave? Was it a wolf quote?
Yeah, it was something Ned said to them in one of the earlier.
Something about the pack survives.
Yeah,
like
the
leave
lone wolf dies,
dies,
but the pack survives. And
Yeah, I think
that's,
it was something to that effect.
And they go, I miss him, and that kind of ties the bow on the Starks at that point.
Right.
Except we see Jon walk up to Daenerys' door and knock, but before that happens, Sam arrives.
Yay!
And meets up with Bran
in Winterfell. Yep.
and again another great humor to break up all like the serious and the
Yes.
solemnness. And he's like, "Oh, I haven't seen. I wasn't sure if you remember." He's like, "Oh, I became the three-eyed raven." oh.
This is one of those kind of weird
I
things.
know, and
like,
Sam's just so sweet.
Super
like,
awkward, yeah.
all right, well,
Sam's like,
I've
okay.
seen White Walkers,
No,
so
it's
why
almost like
not?
Sam's like, I've been trying to get knowledge.
Yeah.
And you just have it. like I've been
Yeah.
working years.
Poor Sam.
Cleaning
Reading
Maester
books,
bowls
oh.
and nasty crap
Yep,
everywhere.
cleaning
and
up
you're-
after everybody.
And hey, I'm the three-eyed raven. Like, you didn't do anything.
And he's been through a lot. Let's come on.
As far
Yeah,
as
no,
far as
he
the
has.
learning and knowledge.
Right, but
yeah.
but so what I love about this scene though is basically they start talking about Jon, and
Yeah.
Bran says he deserves to know the truth of his parentage, and he's like, oh, his
says
name
he's a
isn't Jon.
Sand.
His name is
Yeah.
Sand because he was born in Dorne. Dornish bastards have the last name of Sand, and then this is where Sam comes and goes,
Yes.
no, and people were so mad because Gilly's the one that found this out, but Sam's taking the credit for it. He's like, but he goes, I've transcribed the
Team
private
effort.
diaries.
It's team effort, team effort.
Rhaegar married her in a secret ceremony, had his previous marriage
We're
annulled.
gonna give Sam a little credit because
Yeah.
the guy was like stealing keys and grabbing books.
He was doing
when
everything.
He's
He
not
was
supposed to.
doing
So
his
it was a
thing.
team effort. It was a team effort.
So Bran is like, "Are you sure?" So this to me kind of sets up a couple things. One, Bran doesn't know everything, because he has to blatantly look to
I
something.
was just gonna say he's got to trigger
Yeah.
that specific
because
moment.
he has to look into
So-
that memory.
Right,
So that's
right.
why he goes, "Are you sure?" He's like, and then Sam's like, "Isn't that something you can look into? I don't see why he'd lie." And then they see the marriage
Goes
between
back,
the two,
yeah.
and then it cuts to the scene with a young Ned in the tower,
Yes.
and she goes, "Promise me, Ned," and his name is
Aegon.
Aegon Targaryen. So he's no longer going to be known as Jon Snow,
Yeah, but
because now he's going to know something. He's going to know his real name.
you
It'd
know
It'd be
nothing.
so gross
That-
out after.
But that's the thing. So that is
You
kind
know
of
nothing.
working in.
Denial.
Well, that scene is kind of playing in scene where he knocks on the door. Daenerys lets him
Well,
in.
Brand's narrating the
He
Rhaegar
goes, "Oh,
and
they
Lyanna's marriage.
he
and
didn't rape my aunt. He
she
loved him,
her, and she loved
and she
him.
loved him." And that's as John's looking in and knocking on the door, and then Daenerys opens, and then they get to doing
Which
the
we
deed.
knew. We knew
That's
that was.
gonna happen.
We knew that was
The
coming.
attraction
I
was
mean,
there.
we saw that when they both looked
Honestly,
at each other.
I mean, I'm joking when I say ew, but it didn't really bother me because it's going on this whole.
Yeah. I mean, look at Cersei
Cersei
and
and
Jamie.
it's
I
a
mean,
sign of the
I
times
think
of
by
this.
like
Yeah.
episode 5, you're just like,
It's
yeah,
all-
whatever. They're in love.
It's
oh,
all about
whatever.
it's all about bloodline.
Yeah, and even
It's all
Cersei
about
didn't
that.
care because when people were coming in to change the sheets, when Jamie was still in bed with her,
She's like,
She didn't
stay.
care.
she's like, stay. So
I'm the
I
queen,
mean,
what are they gonna do?
She doesn't, you know what I mean? Like I feel like at this point, so
Well,
we
she
knew that was going to
wiped out.
happen.
She wiped out anyone who would have a problem with it. She basically took out the sept.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, at this point, but I do want to circle back to the after John goes into Danny's room, the look on Tyrion's
Well,
face.
This is where a lot of the conspiracy
concerned.
theories
So this is
I
what I
feel
want to
like
talk
it's
about.
a very
Yeah.
concerned look. It's a disappointed, not because he would rather be in the bedroom. It was like shit. I think damage control is going to have
Sugar,
to be
honey, iced
done.
tea.
That's it. I have to spell.
I mean, I think it's more he's plotted something with Cersei.
Yeah, because
this is-
damage
this is what we
control.
Did we talk about this?
A little bit. We did at work. We
so
did.
here's the thing. One of the earlier episodes, Tyrion brings up to Daenerys. And I don't know if you and I have talked about this, but he brings up to Daenerys who's going to succeed you once you grow old and die,
Yep.
because she can't.
She can't have
Supposedly,
kids,
she
no
can't
successor.
have
Yep.
children. And John even mentioned to it just because. a witch told you that, you believe it.
Right.
So
He's
it's
like,
one
I'm
of
up
those
for the
things-
challenge.
Right. Well, here's
I'm
the
just kidding. I'm
deal,
just kidding. I'm trying to bring humor.
which you do. But no. So I think Tyrion basically made a deal with Cersei. If you help us,
Right.
no matter what happens, you're going to have a child. Daenerys can't have children. Once this whole thing is decided who's going to sit on the Iron Throne, guess what? Once she gets wiped out, she's not going to have any heirs. I'll promise that your son or your daughter, whoever your child is going to sit on the Iron Throne after you're gone and after Daenerys is gone, because she can't have children. She's got no successor. So even if you can't get the Iron Throne, the next Lannister will. And I think that's what he promised her. I don't know. We'll get there, but yes, he's
Yeah.
watching them watching the door
yeah.
as they're knocking boots and so to
and
speak.
it's like I said, it was more of a concern. Like, oh, I think I'm gonna have to do damage control at this. Like, like it's the plan is now formulating in his head, because he's like, if she gets pregnant, then what? It's gonna open
and
up.
my deal is
Null and void.
Yeah.
We'll see, because that's going to put him in a tricky situation.
And then the big ending, people. The big ending.
But does it? But hold on. Does it really put him in a tricky situation, seeming she's lied about what she's doing anyway?
That's also a good point. But at the point in time,
So he's unaware.
he's unaware
what's-
of her what she's doing.
And I think Arya's gunning for Cersei, and I think there's
we'll
going to
see,
be
we'll see.
something.
I see. It might be Arya, but I think it's going to be Jamie. If
Jamie?
she's going to go,
Yeah.
I think it's going to be Jamie. that
That's
takes
what
her
I
down.
mean. So
It's one of those two.
Yeah,
It has
it's
to
gotta
I
be.
think it'd be poetic.
Somebody at work, somebody at the office said it'd be Arya wearing Jamie's face.
Ooh,
But that means she
I
would have
like
to.
that.
Jamie would have to be dead
Oh, I don't like
because
that.
she can only take the faces of
could
dead
happen.
people. Could happen.
Could.
Maybe,
I don't know.
But maybe she
It'll be
kills Jamie
interesting.
for crippling Bran.
Could.
Maybe that's how Jamie bites the bullet. I don't know.
Maybe.
We'll get to that. But yes, that last scene. So we touched upon it, and we didn't talk about it at the end of the previous episode. What's the dragon's name?
Viserion.
Viserion. Gets pulled up by the White Walkers at the end of the episode and gets turned into a White Walker dragon. So now Tormund's at the wall watching everything. All the White Walkers are, the dead are walking forward, and all of a
Yes.
sudden here comes the Night King riding the
That's
dragon, breathing fire, magic to knock down the wall, and they pass the wall, and that's how
The season
ends as we're gearing up for. So not only I thought we were going to get an answer either who's going to be sitting on the Iron Throne or the White Walkers.
Thought
were gonna
they'd
be
wrap
dealt
up
with.
one
They'd wrap up one
storyline
story
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
focus on the other one.
But it looks
Yeah.
like we're going to be
True.
dealing with
Both at the same
both
time?
next season.
Over the
And-
course of 8 episodes?
I think so, or 6.
Oh
Was
wow.
it 6?
It's either going to be. I think it's 6 episodes, but I think they're going to be like an hour and a half.
I was
each.
gonna
Yeah.
say they would have to be, because how do you wrap up 2 major
Yeah,
storylines?
we're all. It's all downhill now. We're free falling with this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just want to get to their spin-offs.
Well, no. Well, that's interesting too. I wonder what they're going to do about that. But let's.
One rumor I heard was the Lannister story.
That
Like the
could be
kids
interesting.
growing up.
Oh, no kidding.
Which that could be an interesting one.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Anything is going to, unless you're going to bring in some of the other actors, like
I know. I was gonna say, doing spin-offs, you got to be careful who's in it, because
like Macy Williams,
Yep.
Sophie Turner, all the other Stark children. Like, not that I'm knocking them, but that's predominantly what you get typecast as a certain role. Like, yes,
Right,
Sophie Turner's
right.
done a couple other movies. She's been in the X-Men movies, but
Yeah.
it's just like it's one of those things. Like, they have this great gig going right now with HBO,
right.
with the show. Maybe they're going to do something. I don't know. Maybe they'll do a spin-off of what happens after. I don't know.
Maybe.
Or maybe they'll do
The
something.
War of the Kings.
Yeah. I have no idea.
they could do
but-
whatever they wanted, because
but
they
this
already have
this
such
world
a huge
is
audience.
so like huge,
Diverse and-
Yeah.
and there's a lot of history that George.
There's a lot of lore.
Yeah, exactly.
He's phenomenal, and I got to give a shout out to one of my BFFs, Jen. She wanted me to get into this when it first came out. What, 5 years ago, 6 years ago?
Did you ask Jen to watch the show tonight?
I didn't. She's working. You know her. She works a million
Well,
hours.
share it with her later.
Best
And everybody that's
hairdresser
watching,
in
if
the
you wanna
world.
share
Hair
too,
to envy.
much
Just
appreciated.
saying, giving a plug. But yeah, and I wish I would have gave it a shot years ago, and I didn't. So, but I'm glad I
it was
did
good
now.
for you to binge it.
It
though,
was.
and just
It
kinda
was.
Like,
It did, and I have to say, I
but
really
now-
binged.
But now
so.
here's the deal. Now you're gonna feel the pain with the rest of
with the
us.
rest of you, yes, I
as
have
we're
to
waiting.
wait. Oh, it's so painful.
But as it's gearing up, this is when you can watch it again and pick up some
Definitely.
other.
Okay,
things.
so I have to ask a question then, because a lot of people go through this. When was because some people just can't
Handle.
Did you get hooked right away? Because some people, they say it takes 4 or 5 episodes for them to get
After the
into.
first episode, I could do without certain pieces of it, but
Yeah.
I kept going back to my colleagues at work saying, well, did they ever find out who pushed the kid out of the window? You
yeah.
know what I mean? Because that's all I really
So
cared
people
about
were
was the
edging you
child.
on to little things and
Right.
pushing you along.
And one of my colleagues, he's like, "You're gonna have to watch."
Because we
to
hear
see."
about so many people
I
that
love
quit
that.
watching the
I love
show because they just can't keep up with all the characters and all the.
It takes I feel like it
takes
takes
an
a little.
effort
It
at
does. It takes
first.
a little bit of time. You can't have things going on.
Be
in the
patient with
background
yourself.
yeah, you do. But I really feel like if you give it 100% of your attention,
You can't
will
be
love
working
it.
and watching it.
No,
or,
you can't.
you can't. You have to
because
be.
as soon as you turn your head, you've already missed like a huge
Everything's
piece.
lights off, door closed.
Yes, seriously. Like, all right,
this
nobody
close
bother
to,
me.
like this close to the TV.
yeah, my phone's on silent.
Well,
Nobody
that's-
called.
that's-
Nobody
that's
bother me.
exactly what I do. Even at the movies, like anyone that texts in the movies or has their phone,
Jerk.
it bugs me because it's
Yeah.
like I don't need to be distracted. I want to like
Yep.
be immersed in this world,
Yep.
whatever this is, whatever story you're trying to tell. And to KB's point, I think that's a good thing that you binged it when you did, because that's a part of the problem that I've seen with people that watch it. That now you got to wait another year, and you're like, oh my god, who is that character
Yeah.
again?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Especially with
like
the-
like Gendry, for example. We haven't seen
Brand's
Gendry.
another one.
Right, but I'm saying we haven't seen Gendry for a couple of
Brand.
seasons,
Yeah.
and it's like, where is he? If you didn't binge it, like you'd be like, oh, I haven't seen him since
It's true.
season
you
3.
remember a little
Season
bit
3.
more
It's
when
been
you
it's been
binge,
4
yeah.
years or whatever, like or 3 or 4 years since I've seen him. I don't remember who that is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I mean, to have that still fresh in your mind when it's like in a couple of months rather than a year and a half,
Correct.
4 years later,
In between,
it's
yeah.
it's a
But
little bit
also,
different.
like I feel like I didn't fully. I've had to watch the show 3 times over to fully
Mm-hmm.
appreciate a lot.
Yeah,
of
I
what's
was gonna
in
say
it.
you probably catch more.
Yeah.
The second or third
But
time.
my thing has always been like, oh, see it, and then when it comes out on Blu-ray or whatever, or digital, watch it again. Like that's how I always did it. And then when season 6 came up, I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna watch the whole damn thing again. Season 7, rather, just watch the whole thing
thing. again.
So I've literally seen the whole show 3 times.
Yeah, I would.
I think Don's probably like 3 or 4 times. or 5,
Don's a
like-
beast with this show,
Yeah.
and I'm kind of bummed he had to take off a little bit early, but hopefully he gets to watch the second half of this show and give us his thoughts either next week or the week after.
So we're back, people.
Yeah, we're back. Season 2 of For Your
Do
Geek.
we want to talk about some things that
We can.
bi-weekly schedule?
Yeah, we're still kind of
talking
ironing
about
that
some
out,
of these
but pay attention to the Facebook page on Facebook For Your Geek. I'll be announcing like shows and whatnot. We might be doing every other week for the time being, just because we see movies a little bit early. So Thor Ragnarok is coming
Yep.
out, Justice League. So those Thursdays that
things
those
coming up.
movies drop, we will not be here. But we'll be reviewing it the week after. We get some stuff coming down the pipeline. I don't know if Rich is still watching, but we're working some stuff. Our buddy Rich, who does all the horror movie
Mm.
stuff, we're going to be doing October's going to be Walking Dead's coming
Yep.
back. He's got a couple of independent filmmakers from the
about,
area
yeah.
that he wants to bring on, so we're going to do that. We'll have to figure out logistics for that. But yeah, we're back. Season 2 starting now. Before we head out of here, though, we got to do a couple different. I want to change the catchphrase, and I didn't bring this up to you. I'm doing this on the spot, which is
Oh,
interesting.
boy.
But first and
You're
foremost,
supposed
I
to
want to
have
thank.
Don here for this, man.
No, I want to thank Aaron for coming on. We were doing
Yes,
Game of
thank you for coming
Thrones.
on. That was-
and,
that was great.
Thank you for bringing a female presence onto the show.
Should we thank
Again,
our sponsors again?
We're going to thank our sponsors again,
I don't
too.
think
As
we
you
did
see
that.
on
Pay the
the
bills.
page. Yeah, we got 3 awesome sponsors. You'll see their logo on the Facebook page, on the video streaming live. But for those listening to the audio, we have Pachico's Furniture. So if it's Fall River's finest secondhand store. They also offer moving services. So if you're moving to a new location, give them a call. We also have Local Blast, which is a marketing firm, local again to Fall River. Again, Local Blast is a great name for that. So check them out. If you're looking for any advertising or marketing, they're your go-to there. And then we have a friend of the show, Tara J, who has Ritual Sweat Society. She just opened that up in Dartmouth, I believe. So she's very into fitness, into yoga. Check out her website. I'll link to all of that on our Facebook page as well. Sweetheart of a girl. She's really invested in making empowering women, whatever your size is. She's just got this kind of like, I don't want to say like this wolf pack, but she's got like this group. Just like she wants everybody to succeed, and she's got this female empowerment thing going, and getting healthy and working out all through booty yoga, which is part yoga, part dance, and it's awesome. And she does a great job, and she's very passionate about it. So check out her studio as well. Erin, do you have anything you want to plug? I should have brought this to you earlier.
No.
anything?
I just want to say it was an absolute pleasure, and I'm so glad I got to geek out.
Hey, we're gonna bring you back.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll bring you back.
How did
for-
you feel about coming on? Were you nervous?
A little
'Cause
bit.
Some people are. and-
Yeah, a little bit. Just making sure that I make sense, I
Well,
guess. Because
once you-
sometimes I think
I never
Do
make
your
sense.
homework.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that I didn't come on, and I know everything that I want to say, but sometimes having my
Doesn't
list
come
in
out.
front of me.
Yeah.
I'll
is
put
a
it to you this way:
little-
I'm the host of the show, and I say 2 or 3 phrases wrong every single show, and it just doesn't really matter as long as you're having
but the
fun.
number wrong compared to the number you get right.
Right, I get that, but what I'm saying is,
His memory's phenomenal.
just don't.
Better than mine.
As long as you're having fun and being
Yeah,
yourself
no,
and
it was-
geeking out over what you're passionate
It
about.
was awesome.
This is a,
I
this is a
thoroughly
safe
enjoyed.
zone for people, man.
Yeah, it was
KB, anything you want to plug?
Nope.
Okay, so I'll do all the plugging.
You can do all the plugging.
For those listening to the audio or those watching the video live on Facebook right now, like our Facebook page, For Your Geek Podcast. Every Wednesday, KB and I do covers of the week. KB does Marvel covers, all his favorite Marvel covers of the week. I do all my favorite DC comic covers and variants of the week. Very awesome week for DC. I had 10 different postings.
Marvel had a good
Marvel
week
had
too,
a good
covers.
week too.
Yep.
And like our page, share it with your friends. Share this video with your friends. Help us grow. If you guys have any ideas for topics you want us to talk about, comment on our page. You can also like us on Instagram, Free Your Geek on Instagram, Free Your Geek on Twitter. Tweet at us. That's cool too. We also have a website, Free the Geek, JFR.
He was too lazy to change it.
I'm not going to pay for a second domain, dude. Originally, this podcast was going to be J Free the Geek. Somebody else already has Free the Geek, so I went with Free Your Geek because I'm J Free, this whole thing. But I have jfreethegeek.com, JFREE, thegeek.com. We have different things happening there. Our Twitter feed's on there. Our postings are on there. I share the show on there. Any other articles I might share also on there. So check that out. What else? We have our friends at Game King right across the street here. If you're into RPGs, into board games, role-playing games, check them out. They also have a comic section. Again,
Game
check
nights.
out Game Nights. Check out their website. Check out, again, our sponsors. We love them, and they pay the bills here that let us do our thing. And I want to change the phrasing a little bit. So instead
boy.
of
You need to write it down so we
just,
remember.
Just a tweak. Instead of start the weekend with your geek friends, let's just do start it. It's your dose of geek for the week, because we don't really do this on the weekends anymore. It was weekends when we used to release the audio on Friday, and then they'd listen to it
How
on
about just
Friday and
get
have
your
the
geek
weekend.
on, get your geek on. No.
No. Thank you.
That's
but
awesome.
that is- don't encourage him. Don't encourage him.
If Don was here, he'd be writing that
So
one.
my God.
you know what? I'll take us out. Ladies and gentlemen.
It's a new saying, so yes, you're doing
it's,
that.
it's a new saying.
Jay
but,
Kravitz.
for the Don.
Jay Kravitz.
So let me just say my phrase. Can I please?
Sorry.
No,
Go
it's
ahead.
all good. It's all good. For the
stage is
Don, thank you, Don, for being here. And unfortunately, I had to take off here. But for the Don, for our lovely guest, Mike Khaleesi right here. Aaron, thank you for coming on again. For KB, I'm Jay Free. This has been your dose of geek for the week. So get your geek.
He
on.
loves Dazzler.
I love Dazzler. Goodbye, everybody.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.